I don't know what it, I mean, all these are gonna be back to the city.
I know they do.
So we can have his input at that time.
Yeah. No, you believe it, yeah.
Well, my plan was I would really,
Yeah.
you believe him?
I do know.
I'm sorry.
That's-
I've got to go and do the stuff of the council side. And then we don't care.
And now you make a decision.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too, earlier, that we want to do that. I don't know what they're so long ago. Oh, yeah, it is better than.
Oh.
But yeah, no, it was. No. Oh, weird. But it was 800. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and get started. Pete Snow is running late. He texted us about 15 minutes ago and said he was on his way. I thought we'd go ahead and get started and do some of the preliminary stuff that we do every meeting that does not involve Keith. And then if he's not here by the time we're done, we'll take a little break until he arrives. So let's start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
April 1.
Yes, I am.
Okay, thank you, April. Okay, today is Tuesday, July 16th, 2024. It is 6:09 PM, and this is the regular meeting of the Virgin Town Council. So we just did the Pledge of Allegiance, and our first order of the day is to declare if you have a conflict of interest with anything on the agenda. So I will start with Paul.
No conflict.
And I, Jean, have no conflict. Misty? No. Marcy? No conflict. April?
No conflict.
Okay. So we're moving on to the consent agenda. And for the consent agenda, we've got minutes from June 25th, July 2nd, and July 11th. And then the checks and invoices for April and May. The checks and invoices for April and May were on the agenda last month, and they were not, we put them off until this month, so hopefully we can approve them this time. Any issues with the consent agenda? I can tell you right now, I have not looked at the minutes for July 2nd or July 11th.
Well, in that case, we should table the minutes so we all have a chance to look at it. I have to admit, I didn't realize where they were until too late in the process. So that's on me. I was going to the 16 folder and I kept looking for minutes and seeing, but they're in underneath that, and they were in broad view. I just automatically went to the folder.
Oh, there was a folder that said minutes?
No, there's in
They
the,
just weren't in the July.
they weren't in the folder, they were just below all the folders, and I didn't look, that's my bad, so I can't contribute to the minutes anyway at this
Okay.
point.
I have submitted my minute edits, but I plan to abstain from the approval of checks and invoices. If you guys wanna make a motion and vote on that, I'm fine, I'm just planning.
Okay. All right,
I'll say, April.
April, what about you? Have you had a chance to read the minutes?
So I didn't get a chance to put in my edits for the July 2nd and July 11th, so I'm fine to just table those.
Okay,
Me too, I'm fine with that, because I didn't. I didn't look at July, I got June and May, but not July.
okay, all right, so, I make a motion that we, table approval of the minutes till next month's town council meeting.
I second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, and then, I make a motion that we approve the checks and invoices for April and May 2024.
I second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, all right.
You have one abstention.
And one abstention from, Marcy. Okay. So four to one. For approval, one abstention. So now we have open forum. Does anyone here from the public have anything you want to talk about in open forum? If not, then we are moving on to council comments. So, and then we'll do council comments and then we will take a break to see if Keith arrives. He should be here in time, I would. Okay, so, Paul, any comments?
Yes, I don't know, Tyler, did you want to add anything from the fire district?
Sure.
And then I will add on, and I know what he covers and doesn't cover.
Okay.
Hello, my name is Tyler Ames, Battalion Chief, Fire District,
You're gonna have to say your last name again.
Ames,
Ames.
yeah,
Need it for the minutes.
no worries. Been busy, we've had a couple fires, last month here in Virgin, we had 11 total incidents,
Really?
last month. And we had the one fire, that I think it was a little over an acre, that was burned total. So, the 4th of July brought some more fires. I think our biggest fire was a little over 6 acres, which was south of Sky Ranch. All of our fires around the 4th of July were firework related. And they were all let off in zones that fireworks weren't allowed. So, we didn't have any firework incidents along the Zion corridor. So that was good. And then, I think we just finished up an active shooter training today. This was our second part today. We did that in conjunction with Hurricane Police Department. So we just kind of go in, obviously summertime's the time because there's nobody else using the school. So we went in there and did that. And then as far as call volume goes, I was just looking at the numbers today. From last year, we're actually at 28% on our call volume. For this area, kind of the Zion corridor, we're kind of around the same thing. We're about 24% call volume increase compared to last year. So, which is a pretty significant number for us. Most of the time, we see anywhere from 10 to 12% increase on our call volume. So this year's been pretty significant. But we have all of the station staff. We do have one wildland truck that's deployed on the Silver King fire. Right now, I know they're getting, I think it's, I was trying to look at the containment before I got up here, but I know it's getting there. So, and then I think another major fire just broke out in northern Utah. So anyways, I'm pretty busy. Is there any questions I can answer? Anything?
Tony?
I would add that if you look in your SharePoint, the numbers for call for services for May and June are in there, so you can look at what's in June and what's in May, and then the total, make a comparison.
They're in the June and May folders or in today's folder?
No, there's a separate fire folder on SharePoint. So those numbers are in SharePoint. So you can take a look at your convenience with those. And then we're proceeding with truth and taxation hearing concerning raising taxes for next year, for next year's budget. And I will have more information on that after the next meeting. But we're looking for only a temporary fix with respect to taxation, and we're hoping to have some legislation that will allow us to do sales tax and for the district, and with that kind of property tax relief. But as we go through the process, I'll give you some more updates when we know exactly the numbers. Anything you have, Tyler?
Now, the only other thing I was gonna say, mention, we did have a fire up on Co-op on the 4th of July. Fairly close here, but the RV that caught on fire. Luckily it was surrounded by green trees and green grass, but the start of it was a faulty refrigerator inside. Camp trailer.
Thank you,
Thank you for your update.
and thanks for April for thanks to Crystal for pushing that fireworks ban ordinance before the 4th of July, so that was good, thank you. And the only other thing on council comments is, I know they've been ordered, but jailbreak signs.
Yes, I talked to our new guy the other day about them, about
Okay,
ordering them and making sure that the wording is consistent with what's in
okay,
the
so
ordinance.
for the public out there, they're coming.
We just had a meeting a week ago today where I talked about that. Okay, any, Misty, any council comment? Marcy?
Yeah, I just wanted the public to be aware that recently I noticed that a public body had been added to our Utah public notice site. And it's titled Approved Ordinances and Resolutions. It's pretty rare. I look at every city and town throughout the state, and only about 11 others do that. It's typically a public body's council, commission, board, et cetera. And historically, Virgin hasn't posted their documents that way, but I just wanted to let the public know to look for that body and encourage you to subscribe if you're interested in receiving that information.
April, do you have any comments?
I don't have anything.
Hold on, as soon as I finish my note here, I will make my comments. Okay, so as everybody in town knows, we had the issue with water on Sunday. Started at 1 o'clock in the morning. Poor Crystal was on the phone on and off for hours with the Water Conservancy District because of our water problem. And then we sent out the notice we had a notice delivered to everyone advising to conserve water until the water pumps were fixed. And we had flyers prepared, and I wanted to thank the following people who went around town and served a notice on every door. And that was Darlene Pope, Valerie Wins, Caleb Spindlove, the Ammett family, Sherry McRae, and Darcy Spindlove. And they covered each of their neighborhoods, and the Ammett family covered some neighborhoods beyond their own family. And then one of the things that Paul had told me he was gonna wanna know tonight was why we don't have a second connection like Tokerville and Laverne, because both Tokerville and Laverne were also affected by this problem that happened when this pump went out. And so yesterday I had a telephone conversation with Bree Thompson at the Water Conservancy District, and she indicated that Virgin gets their water only from the Cotton Well. Laverton and Spring and Tokerville get their water from both Tokerville Springs and the Cotton Well. And they are able to switch from getting the water from the Cotton Well to getting water from the Tokerville Springs. However, she pointed out additionally that our current contract, we are in the process of removing because we're joining the regional water supply agreement. Our contract with the Water Conservancy District says our water only comes from the Cotton well. Now that we're joining the regional water supply agreement, we can reevaluate how Virgin gets its water. And if we want to do a second feed, we will have to help pay for that. There are some, and then she indicated there were some vulnerabilities in the line, the water line that comes up to Twist. So we should consider adding more storage capacity in Virgin, like we have the new water tank that's under construction, and so she was very happy about that. But that's why Virgin was affected, and the Virgin and Tocqueville were able to continue unabated with no issues. So, well, I would tell everyone that. Okay. So then yesterday, I had lunch with some other mayors and then our state representative, Davis. And he indicated, we happened to ask him, what are the two things that are going to be discussed at the interim session? And he said housing and the how to apply this recent Supreme Court case that overturns the Chevron deference to how they're going to apply that in the state. And I kind of got the impression from what he was saying that they might even have, whatever they're going to change, might even affect the way municipal interpretations are. Affect what kind of deference municipal interpretation is given by courts. So I thought that we needed to be aware of that. And that we will need to consider how that would apply to us. So I spent the day, well, let's say I spent what free time I had today reading what I could on Supreme Court cases and then doing some research, found a law review article that was talking about, already just recently in the past few years, some states that have pulled away any kind of deference to the municipal statute interpretation. So, I won't be surprised if this comes from this interim session with this, state. So just wanted everybody to be aware of those attorneys that would read the case.
That concept is already, like you said, codified in some Utah Supreme Court cases, or not codified, it's a creature of case law. The legislature is looking at making that part of the statute, the Municipal Land Use Management Development Management Act.
And that's what I was concerned about. What was said at lunch yesterday is that when we have coming up later on down in the discussion portion of the meeting about amending chapter 4.02 that has to do with planning commission and reviewing some of the stuff that they do, that if this is coming, that we really do have to review, make some changes when it comes to planning commission. Okay, so on to the actual items on the rest of the agenda. So the first item is ordinance 2024-13, amending Virgin's official zoning map by amending parcel number V-2149, currently zoned rural residential to highway resort zone. This was reviewed at the planning commission on Wednesday, and they voted to approve the rezone. Paul and I both were at that planning commission meeting, and I heard the whole discussion. It was quite long. And then Keith was also there and had a lot of input to help the planning commission as they made their decision. So with that in mind, I did not have this on the work meeting agenda last Thursday. I forgot all about it, even though the planning commission meeting was the day before. And so we did not talk about it, but I don't know that there's much to discuss, but if there is, let's discuss it.
If I may, before you begin your discussion, I did want to preface and give the council a little bit of background. The planning commission recommended approval of the zone change. I have a little bit of hesitation and concern because during that discussion, and it was very lengthy, there was references to the Utah Code, again, the Utah Land Use Development Management Act, LUMA, and how it may require the planning commission and ultimately the council to make decisions in favor of the land use applicant in certain instances. I want to clarify that. That is 1098-509. There's an amendment to that, which goes into effect in November. But the current one that we're under right now, that entire section relates to land use applications. And I want to make it clear that I think there was a little bit of misunderstanding, both in some of the discussion that I had with the planning commission, and the planning commission, I think might have been under the opinion that I was indicating to them that they had to act on it, and it wasn't going to act on, or that they needed to act and make their recommendation in a certain way based off of the statute. That is only with regards to land use decisions. Administrative acts. When you are making a zone change, you are acting legislatively. You recognize that tonight, ultimately, if the council decides to approve the zone change, you are adopting an ordinance which rezones it and it amends the city's official land use map. So you are making law here. You are not administering law. Land use decisions in that section that I referenced to them is only when you as the council or a land use authority within the town is making an administrative land use decision of a land use application. Tonight, you guys are making what is called in the statute a land use regulation. You are creating law. So my only purpose in telling you all of that detail is to say that they did make the recommendation, and to the extent that they may have been under a misunderstanding that there needed to be, I think the reference that the planning commission chairman kept referring to as tie goes to the land, like all effort, it benefit of the doubt should be given to the landowner and the, on things, and that is kind of correct, but the administrative actions. And tonight, the application that before you is for you to act legislatively and pass an ordinance that amends our official zoning map, changing the zoning districts for some of these parcels. I'll give that to you up front. Other than that may be way too academic for what you guys want to hear. But I felt like I needed to, Paul had sent me.
I wonder if Paul asked you that.
I had typed out a really long one and got picked up a phone on a call, and I never finished it, sent it to you, responding to your email. Paul.
I guess my question would be, is should we have the planning commission rehear that now? I don't know if it would affect their decision, may change their recommendation. But then again, it's just a recommendation to us.
Yeah.
And one of for the rest of the council, I actually would like to have it delayed at least 1 month. Because I just got that information last night and realized it was there. And one of the planning commissioners had mentioned that we should walk the area before we make decisions. And there's there's some truth to that, for an understanding of what that may be with respect to what we want to see in the town. And I just didn't get a chance to do it today. So I would like to at least have a table for 30 days. But the question is would we benefit from a new recommendation from the planning commission?
Possibly, but I know that discussion was very long, and I actually helped the planning commission walk through the sections of our ordinance regarding zone change amendments and what findings they needed to make in order to recommend approval. And a lot of their questions were answered by the concept that the items that were required, it would be addressed in construction drawings. We also have an issue or questions someone brought up about whether or not. Actually, I'm getting the Labrie project.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
But, I wonder about site visits. There is some benefit in a zone change only to understand the location and how it fits with our general plan and other uses nearby, but short of that, it can't be for the specifics of looking, because part of this property, well, yeah, it can't be for trying to ascertain the worthiness of a certain type of development. You're only approving uses.
It would be for the potential of all uses on what's being proposed and what's there now.
Okay, I was going to say that I don't think that there would be, you and I were both there in the meeting on Wednesday. And I felt that Keith did a good job of making them understand that a lot of what they were objecting to was irrelevant for a zone change. And only becomes up when someone comes in for a building permit
Or site.
or a site plan or whatever,
Subdivision.
whatever use they want to make of it is the only time that some of what they were concerned about comes into play, but is irrelevant for a zone change. And I felt that, that the planning commission had a good understanding of what he had, tried to make them, appreciate. So I think it needs to go back to, planning commission, and that's my thought. And then with regard to walking the property, if everybody votes to delay it for a month so that you can have an opportunity to go walk the property, that's fine. However, if it's already zoned rural residential, with what Kent was raising with regard to the property, or what you're going to see when you walk the property, they are already allowed, they're already all sorts of uses that are permitted under the rural residential zone that it has right now. So I'm not sure that walking the property would change the approval, given what could already be put on that property. But if that's where we go, that's where we go. I just thought I'd throw that in there. So, what do you guys want to say? Anything? I know you do, Marcy. I can see you ready. Go ahead, I'll do mine after.
I think this particular property has geological challenges, drainage issues, highway access. I don't care whether it's like you just said, residential, rural residential, commercial. Those issues exist no matter what's going to happen with it. The town doesn't have any rules in its code to address building, in locations that have higher elevations that are going to protect our view sheds. And that's something that's really important, to people. So, the other nuance, you can throw stones at me if you want, is I don't have a copy of our current zoning map. So I don't know what the zoning is surrounding it. The last zoning map I saw was in 2020, but I think there's been more than 5 zone changes since 2020.
There is, I meant to tell Crystal to put up a zoning map for us tonight, and I forgot to ask her to do it.
Yeah, that would be helpful, but to also, if you could email everyone a copy of that, that would be great.
Well, we're going to be getting a new zoning map before we're done for the end of the year. Updated with all the recent changes.
Yeah, depending on the number of zone changes that happen, Marcy. We have the town engineer update that periodically.
Actually, so all that bottom piece too, Marcy, that's all underneath the purple, that's all purple too.
So it's not, that's what we're looking at, it's not up to date.
That is not up to date, except for the bottom piece of,
That's all purple.
that's all purple, so the purple just goes down.
So you can see that
So Alan Lee's property, and then it comes up and over where the freeway is.
so you can see the piece of property that we are looking at.
It's the
It's right there by
original.
the lodge is yellow, meanwhile it's got purple on one side, BLM land on the other, and across the highway, purple again. So it's surrounded by BLM and highway resort zone. and it wants to be highway resort zone.
I don't know how this is gonna go, but I wanted to make mention in the actual ordinance. In the actual ordinance,
Oh, uh-huh,
in number 2. If you read that last sentence. I think it just, the sentence either was incomplete or something, it says.
oh, yeah, that was,
Eliminating rural residential zone from Google. I don't think we want to say that, we want to say from
Are you
the,
talking 3?
number 2,
number 2.
There's silent.
no. After, in the ordinance itself, now therefore be it ordained, and then number 2. It's just that when they pulled up an old, ordinance and we're amending it to reflect, and they missed that, that's all it is. And we can, if
No,
this,
it's, well, in my document sitting in front of me, it's number 2.
the ordinance of the zone change for the peak zone
Town's
change,
official zoning map
Not-
is amended, restated, redrawn to reflect the zone changes set forth in sections 1 and 2 above. And is hereby amending and eliminating the current rural residential zone and residential zone from the, that's the error.
yes, that's what you referred to.
3.
That's in number 2.
Well, what I'm looking at on SharePoint is in number 3.
Uh-oh.
Oh, no, this is. It's in number 2 in our packet.
Number 2.
Paper packet.
Paper packet.
Paper packet. That's what she's looking at.
Is that a SharePoint open on your computer?
All right,
I
I
have
looked
it
at
on
it.
SharePoint.
I downloaded this to share some myself. Sorry, guys, out there in the audience. We'll get to you on for a minute.
It's in number 2 on the share document as well.
Are you looking at the peak zone change as opposed to the whole zone change?
Oh, maybe.
We've got 2 zone changes on here today
Yeah,
to discuss.
oh, you're looking at the hall, that's fine.
Go down.
That one.
Oh, so does the hall need to be fixed as well?
Probably.
But we're just discussing.
That's just a discussion.
Change that.
You're right. I'll pick up the other zone change.
Okay, all right.
You done?
Yeah, and it's just, over the years, a lot of these zone changes have a lot of the same language, and they always say that the zoning map is restated and redrawn, and we could do better about them.
I had to cut and paste it.
We would just-
It was awful.
We would just delete, put a period after, a semicolon after.
Rod has it in his thing,
Okay,
the zoning map.
okay,
Change.
yes,
Permission.
yes,
Stop.
yes, we have permission, yes.
In Anderson. A month ago, I was thinking about the map when we first moved here, you know, I mean, I'm gonna tell a story. I'll bring some.
Wait a minute, before you go on, is that going to apply to this zone change that we're talking about?
My comment?
Yes,
Yes,
okay, all right, want to make sure it wasn't just a general comment about the zoning now.
thank you.
Okay,
About 10 years ago, and Mayor might have been involved in this, there was a map drawn up to give ideas of where we should have highway resort zones. And the concept, well, and I saw that as we first moved here and thought, what a wonderful idea. It wasn't the changing of zones, but it was, here's what we're thinking of a long-term plan. And I don't know, were you involved in that?
no, that was before my time.
Okay.
I work.
So it basically just said on the east end of town along SR9, that's an ideal place. And I thought, man, it makes so much sense for so many reasons. A month ago, as I left this meeting, or not this meeting, but planning and zoning, I got in the truck and I drove over to the lot. I'd never been on it. And I walked up, there's a little truck, a dirt road that's been dug up on it. This is not just a nice flat spot to put an auto camp or a motel. You'd have to take the whole hill down to be able to do so. It's a beautiful spot, but my questions are. My request would be, first of all, to go take a hike. go take a walk on it and see what it looks like, because once you get there, I totally changed my mind from what I had originally thought, because of the geography of it and the difficulty of it. And I think that, do we want another glamping above the glamping we have? Maybe so. Do we want a motel of, you know, a couple of stories up above the town to look up to as we look at West Temple? Maybe so. But my hope would be that you go just take a walk. It's a short little hike. Do it early in the morning. And I think you get a perspective of what's the opportunity here, and if there is an opportunity for a highway resort zone someday, we can look at that as planning and zoning and as town council and consider that for an applicant. You know, if there's a plan set forth, rather than just, oh, let's do a highway resort zone and it might sell better. Thank you for.
Thank you, Ken. All right, so Misty, you said, Marcy, are you done?
Yes.
Okay, Misty, you said you had a comment.
Yeah, when I looked at this, my opinion, the way our zone changes are set up. Once, if it meets the standard, we just have to do it, and it does. It meets everything that I've read in the highway resort zone. And I agree with Keith and Paul, the use would be changed when they come and apply for the use. What they're gonna build there. So I feel like it meets it, and that I think that that's what we need to go off of, because that's how our ordinance is currently set. If we need to change them, we need to change them. But currently it meets everything in the ordinance.
April, do you have any comments?
No, I really don't. I haven't investigated this as much as I probably should have. I have looked at the property and it does seem to have some geological problems, but that would be true no matter what it's zoned as. And maybe we need to take a look at our ordinances for highway resort zone and determine what types of structures that we would allow in such a geological area as that. So we probably need to look at that, and I'm fine to move ahead with the rezone.
Okay,
Jean, I also sent you in your email, I forwarded you one from the Peaks.
there it is.
If you wanna go ahead and you can read that. And on the bottom there, she forwarded it to me, so I just forwarded it over to you.
Says, greetings, thank you for. What?
Oh, I
you say
was gonna
something,
say,
April?
I didn't understand what she was doing. You're reading the email that they sent. Is that correct?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. She actually sent it to planning commissioners, and then she has forwarded it to the town council. Says, thank you for considering our zone change application to change our property on Dalton Wash and Highway 9 from rural residential to highway resort zone. I understand you will vote on this later today. When we bought our property, the rural residential zone was fitting. But soon thereafter, nearly all of the surrounding properties received highway resort zone, and now there is hardly anything in the area that resembles rural residential. Our property, in addition to the surrounding properties, no longer reflects a rural residential nature. The recent developments of Wildflower, Auto Camp, and the new KOA do not fit with rural residential and have all been changed to highway resort, and they surround our property. We have no plans to develop our property at this time, but we do believe highway resort describes what is going on in the area, and it seems judicious to grant us this zone change so that our property matches and fits in with the surrounding property. Please find the attached map that shows the surrounding property and zoning, which we've just looked at. Best regards, and the Peaks. And they actually have a zoning map, what she has attached. She's gone through, and it's not our zoning map. She's just taken a property map and marked all the areas all the parcels that have HRC. And I would agree with Misty that the town needs everything in our code. They're entitled to be, reviewed, and the code at the time that they apply applies, to the decision made. We cannot decide on, based on what we would like the highway resort zone to be in the future, or what we would like geologic, development to be in the future. They're entitled to what the code is now, because their application is now. The Oh, there's something she said in her email that I wanted to address. Let me look at it real quick. Oh, yes, JR, if you look at her zoning map, they're basically an island inside of highway resort zone and with the BLM next door to them. So to insist that they stay as rural residential is, just inconsistent with the area. So what are we going to do? Paul, are you still wanting to put this off for a month?
Well, it sounded like from the other council members, I don't have 3 votes, so I'm not gonna make a motion.
Misty, you want to make a motion so we can move forward on this?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Marcy?
Darlene, that's
Oh.
right back there.
Oh, sorry. Yes, Darlene. I will let you make a comment.
No, sorry.
I did not, thank you. I was just looking at town council.
I respectfully request that out of respect for the members of the planning and zoning commission, that at least the 3 yes votes be asked. Did Heath Smith, Snow's, narrative influence your vote? Because indeed, I used to think that until I studied it more, and it's indeed a legislative action and not a land use action. And I would like that confirmed by the 3 who voted yes out of respect to our commission. Thank you.
You want us to, wait, let me make sure I understand what you're saying, Darlene. You want us, as we're voting, to say whether or not we believe that this is a legislative act? Is that what you want to know?
I think it should go back to planning and zoning, so that the 3 who voted yes have the opportunity to consider whether Heath's council, influence their vote. Out of respect to the planning and zoning commission. Since this property is not up for sale, there's no.
So the 3 votes you're talking about are in planning and zoning.
The 3 I vote.
So that vote was not, the question was not posed to us.
No.
She's saying she would like the
I
planning.
think I should go back to planning and
Yeah,
zoning.
to,
I understand.
be able to revote,
I understand.
now that the explanation has been made.
Yeah,
100%.
or at least before it's brought back, that they are
Okay,
consulted.
but okay.
Because
If we send it back, I won't object, but I will say that Heath's counsel should always be considered by everybody up here.
But if it was, I agree, but if as he said, there might be.
I have a little bit of a question whether the discussion that was initiated by the planning commission chair about tie goes to the developer, the applicant. Whether that discussion was had in the context of this zone change, because if I remember correctly, it was had in the context of the Labrie.
It was actually in the zone change.
It was in the zone change.
It was in the zone change, I got the beginning.
Yeah, but
But yeah, and again, it wasn't counsel given by me. The discussion was started by the planning commission
Yeah.
chair, and I was asked to find where that was in state statute, and I found it, and I showed what she was talking about. I don't know that I ever counseled that applied to what the planning commission was doing right then and there. It was almost like a tangent.
I believe, I got the impression,
Watching the planning.
I got the impression, sitting there in the meeting, I got the impression they felt it applied to the zone change question. Is that what you felt?
Yeah, I think they were confused about, I understood what Heath was saying. I just listened to their responses and I told them, I think they're confused as to the application.
I'll make a motion then.
Okay, Shirley,
Thank you.
I'm gonna motion to table, we're gonna use 2024 amending Lulu for rezoning parcel number B 2149 from rural residential to highway resort zone and sending it back to planning and zoning commission so they can revote with the understanding of Keith's comments.
Second.
all in favor?
I,
Aye.
April?
I,
Okay. All right. Item number 2. Final plat for parcels B-2-1-21-314 and B-2-1-21-315, what we here in town call the Labrie project, although Labrie calls it Virgin Commercial. Virgin Commercial. We think of it as the Labrie project, but this is the final plat. Approval of the final plat that they are requesting at this time. So. Discussion. Question. Among the town council. Paul and I were also through the planning commission the whole time this was discussed there. So we sat through everything that went on at planning commission.
does April have any questions?
April.
yes, I
You
do.
and you had some questions, because you and I talked the other day on Friday, and you had some questions that I thought were reasonable.
Okay, so my first question is, there's a conditional use permit and it's only for the gas station. However, that conditional use permit has both of those parcels listed. And my question is, does this conditional use permit stay with that entire property and apply to the entire property, the 2 parcels? One of the reasons I'm asking that question is because the conditional use permit requirements have not been met. And if they were to sell those, they have it broken up into lots is how I'm understanding. And if they're to sell one of those lots on the area next to 1420 West, the west end of the project, would they have to complete, say, the wall there that hasn't been completed because it applies to the conditional use permit on the gas station, but that's a completely separate lot.
I think the answer to your question,
Is that all?
Just have one up there.
I think, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Can you hear me now? Okay, so I think that the conditional use permit, when it was applied for, and the conditions was, conditions throughout the entire project. But very specifically, the use that was discussed in the conditional use permit was the use of gas station, which includes the red building and the canopy and the parking lot. That was my understanding. I don't know that we would need to amend the conditional use permit to eliminate these other parcels that would be created by a commercial subdivision. Obviously, they would take the property and it would be subject to the conditional use permit. They would need to go to the owner of the gas station and you've got to finish. It's your obligation so that you can have this use in your building and in your parking canopy. But it's just another way that the town can ensure that all of the conditions of the conditional use permit be completed. If someone came in on lot, can't see the lot numbering up there.
Yeah, they're white box. Which,
Say a purchaser came in and purchased lot 4 and came in with a building drawings and looking to, a site plan, because they've got to show their parking lot and everything too, but they came in and asked for a building permit. We would not allow that until the conditions of the conditional use permit that applies to the entire project is completed. So I would assume that that lot owner would go to the lot owner of the gas station parcel, which is
Lot one.
lot one, and say, hey, you gotta fix this. Or they need to look in their due diligence if they see or understand this concept, then they probably need to negotiate some sort of difference in the purchase price so that the owner of lot four can complete the wall. Any way about it, I don't know that we want to eliminate or go in and try to amend the conditional use permit just because there is now a commercial subdivision final plat before us.
I think April,
Just a second, we both see the same thing, we're gonna ask, this is showing 2 lots here.
2 parcels.
So if you go on the Washington County, same place that this was
Yeah.
taken.
Yeah.
They're one, as of June 4th.
As of June 4th.
Yeah, they're
there's no
both-
longer 2 parcels.
It's now 3151.
This part, the parcels and don't exist anymore.
Now it's just one
Yeah.
parcel.
Well, the conditional use
change?
permit,
Did that
no, the
change?
conditional use permit is issued against the parent parcels. My understanding, and I think I heard this in the planning commission meeting, was that they, for vesting or deeding purposes, they had to re-deed them or combined. I don't know if that's for lending reasons, if a lender or someone asked for this, maybe we can get some clarification on that from
Jonathan, do you have an answer for
Jonathan to
that?
answer that one. But
Yeah, I'm looking it up. I'm not aware that it was joint.
You wanna see on mine?
And wouldn't that be considered a lot line adjustment and need to go before the
No.
planning commission?
She's, Jonathan, she's in. Katie,
I'm
come up
in
and
it,
look
it's
at her
right here, I'm in the
computer.
Washington, I'm not on our site, I'm on the Washington site. So here's your property, this property is done into one. And then if you go over here, but mine is not letting me into the ownership. So it's you just go into Washington County
Yeah,
in their active GIS map and it'll pull, you can find it from there. And then when you click on this ownership, it'll show you, you can see when the records were changed, but mine's not pulling it up. Did yours pull it up to show when the records were changed? At home, it pulled it up right here. It didn't.
Is, yeah, it's not holding.
Yeah, it'll tell me it can't load it in a second, but did yours originally? You do it on my phone, but I need. Like, and if that was an error, it shouldn't have been done, then
Yeah,
it's good for you to know that.
yeah, appreciate that. I'll pull it up real quick.
I could answer, there is a method by which you can file a declaration, it's a weird name, but it's called declaration of annexation. You file that with the county assessor's office. And it doesn't legally merge the 2 lots, but for tax purposes, they give 2 lots, one combined parcel number. And they assess it combined, only for taxing purposes. It doesn't legally combine the lots. In our ordinances, we do not presently, but are working on a lot consolidation ordinance. It is not considered, a lot line adjustment is where you have 2 lots. And one of the common boundary which is adjusted and the remaining, there are still 2 lots. And if this was consolidated, that doesn't create a lot line adjustment, or is considered a division of land. It's a lot consolidation.
It's interesting, I tried to pull it up too, and it does show a single lot, but the minute you want to see anything on it, it just freezes.
yeah, mine just
Yeah.
said, sorry.
I'm trying to do it on my phone to see if it'll.
But again, if the parent parcels of a consolidated lot was the parcel numbers for which the conditional use permit was issued, the new consolidated child parcel, I guess, is still subject to the conditional use permit. It doesn't,
Okay,
the mere numbering of parcel numbers doesn't change
So the CUP basically, for April's purposes, the CUP runs with the land.
So if I
So
heard.
the answer is yes for her
Well,
question.
if I heard April's question, and April, correct me if I'm wrong, you wanted to know is if the CUP isn't complied with, are the other two lots obligated to, uh, comply with the CUP, and what's the enforcement mechanism to do that?
We would deny any future land use applications like building permits until the CUP is done, which is gonna force the two lot owners, if it's in separate ownership, to get together, figure it out, and get it done.
Yeah,
That's why I'm advocating that we don't stop from the subdivision process, because there is a condition of use, you know, and partially built.
Yeah, and I just wanted to make sure that's, if April, that was the question that you got to answer.
Well, I mean, it's interesting that the conditions of the CUP haven't been completed yet, some of them. For example, the wall on the west end, I don't understand why that wasn't completed. And the heights of the walls aren't the correct heights that they need to be, things like that. And then the other issue that I have is, or I'm concerned about, is this septic system on that property is for the entire property. And so we need to see some kind of agreement or something that says that those property owners will maintain the septic system, and they'll also hook into the sewer when it's available. And I know that Mike Chandler said in his meeting with the town that the Labrie project would have difficulty hooking into the sewer the way it's designed. I went back and listened to the minutes, and that's what the YouTube video, and he actually said that. I don't understand why, since they're the body politic of that project, that they would allow a septic system to be designed that would have difficulty hooking into the sewer. I'm not sure why that was allowed to happen. So I think we need to see the CCNRs. We were told that they would be available, and I haven't seen them or reviewed them.
I received them, and they're in the SharePoint folder. I've received them and reviewed them, and they do accomplish what April I discussed as important to me was to see how some of these common elements of the overall project that is looking to be subdivided is going to be paid for and dealt with from an ongoing maintenance and repair standpoint by the sewer.
So that's in the CCNR, okay.
It is, I really only have one, and I look, and I explained to the planning commission, we don't normally review CCNRs for any sort of content, other than if we need, like in this situation, to understand that there is a owners association that has been created, and upon recording of the plat and the CCNRs, that owners association will have the ability to make assessments for common element maintenance. And I did that, and then I looked at some of the use restrictions and other regulations that may conflict with the town's ordinance, and there was one possible area where I'd like a little clarification. I think it covers it, but it wasn't as clear, so maybe it's changing a couple of words, but other than that, I reviewed it, and I am the one who normally reviews the CCNRs. I don't know if the council, with their legal degrees, want to impose their opinions on
No,
what's good or bad.
I don't want to impose my opinion on something that our town attorney does.
The town council was only provided the CCNRs, the 530, the CP.
Normally, the CCNRs never provided to,
Okay, not even to the planning commission?
just that they put the condition at my request that there be, in the recommendation, there be a form owners association recognized as a nonprofit corporation of the state of Utah, and a draft set of CCNRs that were acceptable to the city attorney. And I reviewed it.
But they didn't have that recommendation from you when they made their recommendation, correct? You hadn't reviewed them yet.
Oh, no, I didn't have them, but subsequent to that, I received them and reviewed them, and I am now making my recommendation that they are fine. I would ask that their legal counsel make an addition of a couple of words to make it very clear. One of their uses doesn't conflict with our ordinances.
My question, Keith, is our ordinance, it's my understanding, and understand that we have shared parking spots on the CUP, and I'm not concerned about the CUP. But I am concerned because our ordinance is really poor on shared parking spots.
Oh, yeah.
And we really need to make a change on that because there needs to be a written agreement that the owners of these other parcels that are sharing this
So.
have agreed during the life of that contract.
We work on CCR.
So
So I
are they in the CC?
Yeah, I do know that there is a cross parking easement agreement, so
Okay.
that these parcels do go into private or separate ownership. That the parking, there is an ability for cross use between lot owners. I don't know that it is I don't believe that it is 100% reciprocal, or like this, whatever this little housing area is, but through the rest of the commercial, two buildings that would go up on front, they can use, if one person pulls up in front of the other buildings, if one customer pulls up in front of the other buildings entrance and parks in a parking lot on that side on a different lot, that is approved because the customers of that lot have the reciprocal right to cross park onto the other one. Now, what we need, Paul, is we need to have a provision when we are addressing off-street parking about how we calculate for the number of stall purposes they have, because generally in commercial, you look at the type of use and then it is a number of stalls based on square footage or gross floor space of the commercial building. You can have cross use, for instance, in the city of St. George, I believe it is 1/2 stall for a cross use parking stall, meaning that if I'm in lot 3 and I need to have, because of the size of my building, I need to have 18 stalls, but I can only put in 16 or 15 of them, but I have I have the right under the CCNRs that are recorded to cross park on theirs, then I can count all of parcel 4's parking stalls and I get credit for 1/2 of every one of their stalls. So that can get me up to the 18 that I'm required to have. But we need to have a calculation. for
We need to
that.
do a whole new part.
That's how we came up with that number. All this is right down there.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's all.
Yeah, the parking, you see the parking calculations, that's on the plat itself too.
You're talking about down here,
Yeah.
where
Right,
it says parking needs.
I counted 119 total parking spots.
But the right to cross park is in the recorded. There's not a cross parking, what I would call a cross parking easement. The language doesn't create it necessarily right there. It is in the CCR.
So I'm curious what employees of cabins means. Is this parking stalls for employees that are working to do check-in, check-out for the cabins? Or is this employees that are planning to live at the property?
Check in, check out.
Okay, so if you're listing parking stalls for employees to do the check-in, check-out, what about all the employees for the restaurant and the gas station and the retail stores?
The calculations were based off of state requirements.
Okay.
So it includes all of that.
Yeah, that number of stalls per commercial square footage. that factors in both customers and employees.
And then I was wondering about the angled stalls for RV parking. The drawing makes it appear as though they block the roadway.
It appears that way, but that's a center line not intended to be a center line of the street. Right, that's not the street. Maybe Carl can explain a little bit better.
From that diagonal line to the curb and gutter, there's 20.5 feet. The center line that has stationing, that was for building. We gave them a copy of that, with that taken off, and did a measurement from the diagonal line to the curb and gutter, and then even if you added the 2 foot of the curb, there's 21.5. Well, there's actually 20.5 plus a foot and a half, there's 22 feet of useful passage there, but there's 20 feet, 20.5 feet, and there's 20 feet required by fire code. If we had a fire hydrant there, then it would be, we'd need 26, but the hydrants are further in the property. So technically, it meets the current uniform fire code.
What about, increasing the asphalt thickness on 1420? Thought that was a requirement. It looks like there was roads for it, but then it was just patch.
Well, they added to it. I need to go look at it to see what you're talking
think
about.
that's-
Yeah.
I know that was for a long time ago.
They moved the curb and gutter and added that additional space.
But, okay, well, if it's supposed to be, if the thickness is supposed to be increased, then it should be.
And I don't think they put in that 6-inch base when they added that addition. I watched them and they didn't put the required thickness of asphalt either.
There will be a warranty bond placed for any improvements on public streets.
I don't know if you heard that, April, but Jonathan said that there would be a warranty bond issued for public improvements, improvements on public streets.
And that, in order for this plat to be recorded, they have to produce warranty on re-review. And the town engineer has to review the engineer's estimate of cost or the actual cost that was built. And they have to bond for 10% of that as a warranty. So we do that. I don't record the plat until we have a warranty bond in place.
April, could you hear what Heath was saying?
I did hear him.
Okay. Okay,
The other question I have, Keith, as I started going through this, but it's, I hate doing stuff on the fly like this. But so my question to you is, it appears that they can amend it within the first 20 years with, I think, 80% vote, if I glanced at that correctly. Is there a requirement that they get approval from the town via the town engineer on the amendments? So they can go in and amend this the next day.
I guess conceivably, yes. You can only imagine how many subdivisions get recorded and HOAs and CCNRs, and within the first year, CCNRs are getting amended. But usually as a municipality, those are private restricted covenants between the property owners. And we don't normally get involved. We want to make sure at the outset when we approve it, that there's a mechanism in place to maintain these common elements. What they do by vote after the fact, they can't come back complaining to the town that we didn't make sure that they had the best chance of success. If they go and amend it and mess it all up afterwards, that's on them. Does that make sense?
Well, it does, except for the fact that, we want to make sure that there is, a requirement in there for the common elements. And then we say, but you can amend it the next day and remove that. And so what good is it for us to have that protection? And
None of the roads that might be common use or anything like that, those aren't public.
Yeah, so what you're talking about is open space in the common access and ingress.
Well, yeah, and the maintenance of,
And the maintenance.
of green spaces and stuff like that, and if, say, for instance, they're not putting, say they don't do a reserve analysis study, which tells them they need to be collecting from each other $4,000 a year to be putting into reserve accounts for when the time comes that they need to repave the common use roads. They don't do that, if they go and amend, and so they don't have to follow that procedure and get a reserve analysis and assess and collect from each other the right amount of money because they've amended it 2 days after it was recorded. That ultimately is on them. If their asphalt turns crappy and crackled, they can't come complaining to the town because we made sure that they set it up right in the beginning. What they did after the fact is their issue. Now, public streets, totally different. And I'm sure if they ever want to connect on to a sewer line, that Ash Creek would be very careful to make sure that their system has been maintained and is up to snuff before they ever let it connect on, so that there's not any cross contamination issues or anything.
Ash Creek is actually gonna be the one in Polish. They'll be monitoring all of that.
So are they monitoring and maintaining it for you type, is that your arrangement?
Yes.
I've got to assume that the sewer is gonna be pretty well taken care of, except for if Ash Creek says we need to replace this, this, and this, and we need $100,000 to do so. And the whole lot owners don't want to.
I think that the reality is that in talking with Mike, that part of the CUP was that we connect the action to their lines when they come in. They're moving right along, they're putting that line in.
So forgive me, I haven't seen the CUP, so I don't know what condition is it under.
Do you want me to read them to you? I just had her go back and.
Well, I was just gonna bring up one point, and Chris, if you wanna scroll to the final plat, document.
These are the construction documents.
Yeah, I think it's the page just before that.
Oh, I really got a million different,
Yeah.
It's the grayed out one.
Yeah.
I'll put black and white with that.
Yeah, that one, so shouldn't there be 50 feet from Highway 9 to the development of the project, and then that one, I don't know if I'm.
if you need a bigger, here's the actual like.
Says.
So, right at where the two buildings are,
It says 45.
right behind it says 45, but down the rest of it, it says 50, but in that particular spot.
But look, zoom out.
You know, reprint that.
Yes.
Yeah, but that's why it's different, because it is.
So that building is set offset to the other building, and it created 45 feet instead of 50 feet for the buffer. That's what she's questioning.
And that map revised, you guys just don't have the one we revised, so you guys need,
And do we have a copy of the
Should be
final
good.
plat with some signatures on it, fire department, Ash Creek Planning Commission, and.
Nobody signed anything.
I do have that.
No, nobody signed anything. It'd be after we-
They don't.
Okay, so, yeah, Marcy, the way the process that we follow is the council will grant.
Listen, he's talking to you.
The process that would happen is on a final plat, the council, approves it, and once it's approved, then we circulate it to the different agencies who have to sign off on it. It gets circulated to the town engineer, for their review. Sometimes if they're reading and cross-checking calls and distances and stuff like that, they find an error, they make them go back and fix that. I then review it for several things. I have a 4-page checklist that I follow. And I'm looking at everything from the language of the surveyor certificate, the acknowledgements. I'm looking at who the owner is, if the proper managers, if it's like an LLC are signing this. I look at all these different things. I might make them go back and make a change because I don't like the wording in their dedication paragraph. That doesn't change the final plat that, and what is actually approved and how it's subdivided. But once that's done, and once I see that I've got a signed set of CCNRs that are similar to what I've reviewed, or not identical, signed, ready to be recorded, and I approved their warranty bond, then and only then will I sign and you take this plat down.
Okay, well, thank you, and I just want to give you context why I brought that up, because within Gulu, under town council final plat review, it says, and the way I read it, all signatures except those of the town engineer, town council, town attorney, and county recorder shall appear on the final plat prior to submitting said plat to the town council for final. That's why I asked.
Well, it says signatures.
Does that mean
And-
before we sign it and you submit it?
Read that again from.
It's 18.
1810
D2.
D2.
What they're talking about is.
Yeah, the water saving is the last 2 years, you should be related to the sun.
Yeah.
D2. All signatures except those of the town engineer, town council, town attorney, and county recorder shall appear.
Town council doesn't even sign this.
Well, that'd be the mayor on behalf of the governing body.
another thing to.
Okay. Well, Marcy, that's what our ordinance says. I don't know that that's exactly the process that's been followed by the town. I can see some benefit of that where we have like fire protection provided by one special service district. We are gonna have sewer, you know, in that street, another one. There may be some benefit having those guys sign off. But they do eventually sign off. I don't record plat unless every one of those signature blocks, except for the county recorder. Well, county recorder line, there's an assessor line too. They sign off that there's no taxes due. They do a tax check.
And then number 3 goes on, I keep got it pulled up. The town council shall approve the final plat that finds that the bonds and escrow deposits are fully in effect. So we were just talking about that, but here we are faced with voting on approval, so it just seems that those things should be in place first, is kind of the way I'm looking at it. And that all fees and assessments are gonna be fully paid. I have no idea if those things have been completed or not. And maybe a final plat does have some signatures on it, but what we were provided with council members does not.
It does not have any signatures. That's not typical, not typically the process.
I'm just reading you what the town code.
No, absolutely.
Trying to do what I'm supposed to do and follow the town code.
And that's what it says.
I would say also, we do need to get an amended plat to show.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
that backup from, so.
And then you need to do your thorough review before we go get signatures.
Well, yeah, I asked for a paper copy. People always send me Mylar. Then I'm like, what if I gotta make changes? What if the engineer needs to make changes? Give it to me in paper, we'll make our notes, and then you go back, make the changes, and then print Mylar, and we'll circulate it for signature, and bring it back and do it.
Yeah, he's gonna go get you the paper copy.
Yeah, I'll double check that.
Well, thank you, Marcy, for reading the ordinances so carefully. I appreciate that feedback. And then do any of the council members have anything, comments about the letter that Darlene sent to us in terms of the time frames and how the ordinance reads on the time frames for a final plat compared to a preliminary plat?
Did you have a chance to look at that, Heath? I forwarded it to you today.
Yes, I did.
I didn't know if you had a
Is there,
chance. to
is
look.
there a particular?
No, April just asked if we had any comments
Oh,
on this.
I do want to make a comment. She does make a point, and it was discussed in the planning commission meeting that, whether or not final plat could be approved because it has not been submitted within 6 months of when the preliminary plat and construction drawings were approved. I indicated, okay, well, we have a situation though, because based on the preliminary plat and the approved construction drawings, there's been extensive site work done and a building, underground storage tanks, whatever, added to it. But I do agree, our ordinance says that, so they made the recommendation that it be approved if the council feels comfortable making a finding that the preliminary plat is extended to today's date such that it is timely and complied. There's not a lot of detail about extending that 6-month period, doesn't say you can or can't, and but I don't know how else you deal with this situation. I guess you could. One way would be to say, okay, turn around and go all the way back to preliminary plat, and I don't know how we could ask for any changes to what was previously done. And then come before us, that's only just like a time delay. Or do we deal with it this way and say that the preliminary plat approval is extended?
So if I remember right, their recommendation was two things. One was that the town council extend the preliminary plat submission date to be the date, not says, when they said today's date, I took that to be the planning commission date, not
Yeah.
our date. And then the second was the CCNRs, that you would review them to make sure that they had the, I'll call it a homeowners association,
And
for want of a better
there's
term.
another one I believe about wanting being provided to the satisfaction. As far as form and the city attorney and city engineers form.
So any other comments on what Darlene had said? Number 4, she's asking about the 2 parcels that are under an acre, according to this, they're like 0.90 as opposed to an acre.
I showed the planning commission and showed the council in our ordinance, in our subdivision ordinance, we allow that as long as the number of lots, the yield of lots, considered against the overall acreage of the proposed subdivision meets the standard of, like, for instance, in a commercial zone, it has to be 1 acre. So if I remember correctly, I said, it's pretty simple math, guys. If you look at how many lots, there's 4, and it's a 5.5 acre parcel. So you have a blended density of 1 acre. So, and that's the way we review residential plats and commercial plats, is this blended density concept. And that way, 14 years I've been in that term.
Okay, so the other 2 issues she had on her letter, so we've disposed of 3 of them. She had 5 issues, just 3 of them have been answered, so there's only 2 left, number 2 and number 5. And I think that's possibly what we just talked about that Marcy had raised about the signatures.
And by-
You think that's different?
She read it, that's not part of the code. 1810. Sorry.
Yeah, I looked at that.
Okay.
It's the same section, but she's referring to different parts
So
of the chapter.
again, there's that issue of whether at least whether at least actually and the fire district should have signatures on the block right now.
So this one, number two, with, 1810A 3-5, 3 was no application shall be forwarded or be scheduled for hearing before the P and Z until all required fees are paid, which they have been. And a written report of the town engineer's review of the final plat has been submitted. That was number 3. And number 4, developer shall provide the following copies of the final plat with the application. 3 hard copies, 1 digital copy, and 1 copy each may be requested for the appropriate utilities. And then number 5, comments from Virgin Town staff, engineer, attorney, and other departments will be forwarded to the P and Z for their consideration during the review process and town council.
And we had quite a bit of discussion about that, and I said, and we read through what those things were, and I said, we have that in the form of approved construction drawings. And I tried to explain to them that the utilities wouldn't, they have to sign off on approved construction drawings. Fire district, those types of things. So I explained to them that has already been done. Now, I do recognize that when this preliminary plat was done and construction drawings were created shortly thereafter, we did not have the DRC in place. And at that point in time, what we had was our zoning administrator was farming the construction drawings out to all the different parties, getting their feedback and getting changes to the construction drawings done that these entities that would be providing services or utilities so that they would be acceptable to sign off on them. And we do have a set of signed construction drawings.
Okay, so then number 5, the last one, verification of submission of the plans for the gas station canopy meets 16.28. Oh my goodness, I have to go get that.
Conditional use permit? Are we talking the conditional use permit?
Yes.
Compliance?
Yes. I'm just,
Well, I
that's
don't
what this
know,
is.
I don't know that CUP compliance necessarily is something that we deal with at the subdivision stage. But we won't give them a certificate of occupancy or, until we verify that the conditional use permit conditions are met.
Okay.
Not necessarily something it would, so there has subdivision.
So even though DRC hasn't been around for what, a year, or something like that, this project has been ongoing for years. I think what's being requested is that information from the engineer and the review from the engineer, and I don't think there's any harm in asking for that. Help the planning commission and.
No, I don't know that our engineer was providing written reports of their review. I don't. Other than I give usually the developer a copy of my checklist. If there's any deficiencies, and I usually write a paragraph on how that deficiency can be cured. But on the engineer standpoint, I don't know if that's written report review of engineer review.
So a written report needs to be done The same engineer that reviewed subdivision, which we have in a review of that one. They need to issue a review of this.
So that would have been, what's his name?
Rasmussen.
No, it's,
Right.
no, it's in.
Ensign Engineering.
It's inside.
No, the town's engineer.
It's the construction.
Yeah, Ensign Engineering was the town's engineer who was reviewing.
Oh, Ensign was the engineer before we
So
did.
they would be the ones who would have to, after the fact, prepare some sort of report about their review. They were defining.
At this point in time or way back?
Well, that's my point, it's
Okay.
like,
They sent a letter to us saying everything was complete.
okay, so.
Go ahead.
Can we get a copy of
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
So she's mentioning to Darcy.
I guess,
Or Marcy, not
I
Darcy.
guess where I'm,
I'm looking at Darcy.
I guess where I'm going with this, I think
Quiet.
their application is fairly complete, but, I can't approve, we can't approve something that doesn't correctly show setbacks. And if we need to have this reviewed by, the two districts and signed before we go with it, and if we need to get this engineer's, letter that was sent to the developer, then,
We're talking Shums Coda, right? When you're saying that we had a letter, did you guys receive the letter saying?
Well,
We're talking
that's
Shums
something we
Coda.
need to decide as who we have reviewed final.
I can't have
I can't review my
Review
own
his
plan.
own work.
So it needs to be like Shums Dakota, which they would use Sunrise Engineering, which that's what I'd recommend. Because the other engineer, time is the essence for them. They usually take 2 to 3 months on any review, and that was when we were using Inside, so.
Okay,
So
I
it's up to you guys.
I too would recommend Sunrise.
Okay, I was gonna say, we'll just ask Mike or there to follow up with Sunrise to get them to, get on the review of the final plat. If they can.
Okay, I think what, Riker, what you guys do normally is you do an initial look at it and indicate what, you guys will charge for the review of, the third party review of the final plat and, you guys pay that and they do it, and Sunrise is usually pretty quick. And we just can't have Carl, even though Carl Pro Value is our current town engineer, he can't, like I said, can't review his own work.
Right, and since he recommended Sunrise and we have someone from Sunrise sitting here, that's why I thought, well, we'll just talk to Riker.
Right,
So I'll talk to someone in the Washington office, and have them reach out to the town, and maybe open that process with you guys.
Okay.
Yeah, he just said that
What? Isn't that inside?
Ron Mills is our current engineer.
But they recommended we get, he's been on the project before, Carl's been on the project before, we just need to have an independent third party to do
But yeah,
this.
and I did forget one point, that was brought up to the planning commission meeting. This project has for DRC on January.
Yes, January 4th.
I think of this year.
Yeah,
22nd.
no, January 4th. There was a meeting on January 4th and a meeting on January 22nd. The Labrie project was on January 4th. I have to beg Mr. Labrie to go to have a DRC and he agreed with them to have that. So,
Maybe after that. My point is to see whether we agree to now to an accumulation of several things that probably ought to be done so that we're completely compliant with our ordinance, and maybe worthwhile to table. I know, yeah, if time is of the essence, if they think that they can get it sooner, then it'll be up to you if you want to have some sort of special meeting, normally we can grant that. We just usually put it on, or if we want to make it, the normal business meeting, we can make it an action meeting go on, in addition to.
If you've got conditions that you'd like to have met, we would rather go that direction. approval with conditions. If you have specific concerns, nothing's going through until we go through Heath anyways.
We're also meeting on the 23rd. So we already have a meeting scheduled for the 23rd,
That's next week.
next week.
A week from today, we have another town council meeting on a different issue.
I don't, again, so these are.
I would be
These are-
surprised if Sunrise could do it in a week. I understand what you're saying, John.
These are in small conditions, I guess I recognize their technicalities based on the ordinance. My question would be, have you required, is this the requirement that you've had for every single subdivider that you've done? I'm happy to comply as a condition, but it's.
Frankly, I would tell you that this would be probably the first commercial subdivision
We've
that
done,
we've done in Virgin, and I've been the town attorney for 14 years.
I was gonna say, I've never seen a commercial subdivision before. Yes, Darlene.
This may be true, but 2.22 of the rule says, just because things are done incorrectly by staff through not knowing or for whatever reason, doesn't make it legal. We also have pretty new blood. I don't know how else to put it, but new members. We have considerable new members who are committed to upholding our oath, to uphold our laws and code. So, I want things done right. I feel that is the fairest way for developers, because then they can have a reference, and for the town and for our residents.
I can appreciate that, but it's been 3 years. Time is of the essence. If you have 4 years, thank you. Are we just stalling? I mean, I get it, you want the technicalities, you wanna make sure that we fulfill every dot in there. That's what your staff is for. If you have a specific condition, give us the condition, let the staff do their job. I'm not, this is, us coming here is part of fulfilling something, but it's the staff that's doing the job. It's not your responsibility to review the CCNRs or review the plat. That's your staff. If you have specific conditions, please let us move forward. That's all we're asking. We've done everything that has been asked of us, and we will continue to do everything. Heath will not let us move forward with the recording unless we've done everything. If you don't trust that Heath will make sure that we do everything, then by all means, stop it. But you've got a staff that is completely competent to make sure if you put the conditions in place, it will get done. What conditions do we have? I'd like to know, what are the conditions?
So far, what I have heard is the review by an engineer of the final
Okay.
plan.
But that is a condition.
It would be a revised plat showing that the buildings in 4 and 3 are moved back such that there's a 50-foot setback.
Perfect.
To SR9, and that, the 2 districts, Ash Creek and Hurricane Valley Fire District, both sign.
I'm sure that if we get them signed, you can verify that they've signed and they've been notarized.
I'm sorry, what did you say about the 2 districts?
Well, we read in our ordinance that before the final plat is supposed to be acted on by us, it's supposed to be presented to us with signatures of those parties other than town engineer, town attorney, town council, which is you, the mayor, and the attestation of your signature. But other than that, so that's where I'm getting the 2 districts, because they're the only one that we do out of compliance with their rules of procedure. We make sure that our plats now have those 2 districts signing, well, this Ash Creek signing because they're the body politic, but Hurricane Valley Fire District has to sign off on all of our plats because we've agreed as part of our district to follow their procedure.
granted, we haven't done that, so why does that really need to be a condition where you're stating that you're not going to do it until those signatures are there? So do we really need to add that?
He's saying make it a condition of your motion. If you want to, you can.
I just. that's what my
I'll
question
tell you,
was.
I do it, but if you want to direct me to do it in your motion, it's great.
But I think what Marcy was concerned about was that the code says that those are to be signed before it comes to town council for approval. We can't make that a condition of this because they are going to sign it after the fact. That's why Misty is saying, how can we make that a condition? And we know you're not going to do anything until they sign it.
I don't particularly like approving plats that as drawn don't comply with our setback requirements, just so. If that's where you're inclined, but I'm just saying,
But that can be a condition, is the
well,
setback. The other one
Carl, I'm
doesn't
sure
need to
can
be.
go back to his office and redraw and submit.
They're telling us they
It's
have.
been
conditions,
redrawn.
We have their own
Yeah.
one, so if they can make that a condition to produce that,
Yeah.
instead of, and the signatures, as far as my question was, being all the information we just did, we really don't need that as a condition.
Personally,
I agree.
I would love to have run around and gotten all the signatures. Hurricane doesn't allow us to do it. I don't know very many cities that allow us to do that, but I would have, yeah, I'd love to run around and get signatures.
Well, our subdivision code, it's about to be
Rewritten.
Yeah.
completely replaced anyway.
But I'm happy to go get signatures. I'm happy to have Keith verify it if that's a condition that you want to place.
That's the main question.
I feel like some of these things should just be completed, it's required in the code, and I probably gonna stand by it, even if it's faulty and.
I agree.
This has been a long process, and I'm sorry, I haven't been involved.
What
in
do you
it
gain?
due to
By doing that.
I think it's just, we all have to work together and we all live here and we're neighbors. I think that this town has a history of just letting things slide. And I think that precedent needs to stop.
40 years is not letting it slide. 4 years of engineers, 3 different engineers.
I hear you, I understand it. I can't explain the reason why that was going on. I can speculate, but I can't speak for anybody else, and I wasn't a member of this council.
Can I rephrase my question back to you then? Do you want that as a condition and you feel that will meet your concern?
Which part is a condition?
Add the condition that before his signature goes on it, that we all get verification that those signatures have been done. Because in the preliminary plats and all the approvals, the fire district's already reviewed as well as the Ash Street. If you read into the preliminary plat, they've already reviewed it, just the signatures aren't there.
Signatures.
Right. The
And they
signatures aren't there.
reviewed it.
There's approval letters.
The problem is this. We have a code section now, chapter 20, which is the DRC. And they have had a DRC meeting on January 4th of this year, and the agencies were here, and they approved it. They didn't sign a plat, but they approved everything. And then we have a subdivision code that says we have to have these signatures. So we have this DRC procedure and we have a subdivision code that kind of are conflicting now. And so we're about to replace the subdivision code here before the end of the year. But where these things are asking for these signatures, we've already gotten approval over here under the DRC process. So
That was my question. It's already been made, it's already been approved.
done.
Will a condition of those signatures?
It's just not signed on a final plat, which, as you said, no one seems to approve those, signs them anyway before final plat approval has been issued.
Yeah, never see it.
That's my understanding.
I don't even want to see it until.
Until-
That's approved.
Okay.
It's kind of wasting my time.
Okay, so. Where are we going? I'm done with this topic. Sorry.
I'm all right with proceeding today with conditions, but if other council members need to wait, then we have a meeting next Tuesday to do so. But I'm all right going with conditions, although I do want to correct the record, when you say 4 years, not all that 4 years is the town's responsibility. There's been some delays by the applicant in this.
Well, he wasn't saying it's all
No.
the town.
He was lecturing us about taking 4 years. And it wasn't all of us 4
I
years.
wasn't lecturing.
Yeah, well, that's how it came,
Okay,
excuse me,
okay,
that's,
okay.
hold it, I got the floor right now.
Okay.
Let me finish, that's how it came across. So, but I do understand that there's a lot of responsibility from the start of this. All the way up to now, if we were to look at this is not the way to do the project. It is not. It's got, the developers got a lot of money invested in this. And I think the planning commissioner Kent Peterson said last time, there was a lot of money invested in this. We need to proceed and figure out how we're gonna get this done and get it done soon, get our problems corrected later on. There are problems with this whole process. I mean, everybody that's touched it has got a problem. And even I have a problem as an individual town council member with it. So all the way from the zoning administrator on out. We need to look at this and not do this again for the town. It's not right for the citizens, it's not right for the developer. And it's gonna just make it impossible for people to serve in the future if they can't follow what they're doing. But I'm ready to proceed.
I was just stopping you because I didn't want you to get into an argument. That's
No,
why
but I have the floor, and I'm gonna make sure, according to our rules of procedure, that I'm gonna take the floor and not get interrupted if I'm done.
But also, under our rules of professionalism that we adopted, the quorum, if she's the chair, if she feels like there's gonna be unprofessional conduct, she can.
Interrupt.
She can pause you.
I can pause.
Yeah, but there wasn't any.
Okay.
There wasn't.
She was just perceiving, she was seeing.
She was seeing.
You guys were about to get into a big argument and I didn't want to see an argument. So, okay, we've resolved that. Yes. Pat?
Would the council like clarification on the parcel, how the GIS
Oh,
map
sure.
shows one?
Yes.
Yes.
Please.
Would- I'll keep it brief.
At this point.
So, the council noted and properly noted that now the parcel ends in 3151, which is showing as one approximately 6 acre parcel. That was a result of a deed recorded on June 6, 2024. That was recorded by GT Title. And that deed is from David Labrie as trustee of the Albert Labrie Trust. And it conveyed the property over to Virgin Commercial LLC. And it referenced in there the two parcels ending in 314 and 315. I think what happened is that the title company used the legal description that reflects, it should have had the separate parcel number legal description, but it used one legal description with, and it says the proposed final plat for the Virgin Commercial described as follows. So the legal description is what we see on the map now, rather than the title company using those two parcels. It wasn't intended to do anything, in terms of the applicant, we weren't looking to change anything, it was just simply getting a title issue squared away. Approval of this final plat will even, supplant what we see in this June 2024 document. And the legal description within the plat and the map itself will be the legal description.
Essentially, it's a lot consolidation by deed, and we don't prohibit or restrict lot consolidations or regulate the process. We are going to. Very well soon.
So our final plat approval, is it going to be for the two parcels we have here on our agenda, or is it going to be for
If you want to
this
be
number?
careful in the motion,
Yeah.
say the new parcel number formerly known as, and then say
Okay.
the two parcels.
Okay,
I think that would bring the best clarification, and that's something that we'll need to look at on that map.
Yeah, that may
Being circulated to parcel number.
Yeah, yeah, that would be a change to the map itself too, because I think it does reference the whole parcel.
I think the legal description will be the same.
You'll need to eliminate the parcel line and just somewhere on it show it as, have a notation of the parcel.
Yes. Good questions. Any follow-ups?
So I guess at what point, if the final plat is approved, at what point do we expect some of the portions of the project to be completed, such as the asphalt layer I was referring to?
You're talking about the improvements in the public right of way?
She's talking about on 1420.
Yeah.
Road 14.
There's also supposed to be a sidewalk there.
In terms of the timing, I'd have to defer to Jonathan and Steve on that.
And just how do we ensure to protect the town to make sure, I mean, I know we talked about the bonds, so I guess that means if they don't comply, don't comply.
Well, it's not a performance bond, doesn't guarantee that they're going to do these things.
But
It's
does it mean,
simply a warranty bond of what they have built.
Yes, and that's the key is in the ordinance, both the town and the landowner slash developer are bound by that ordinance. And so, once we get the actual costs, you take the 10% as required by the ordinance. That's posted, and that'll be in place for a year to make sure that the work was done according to ordinance and construction norms.
Marcy, to answer your question, I'm reading the actual conditional use permit that was issued. And here's the list of conditions, and there's 16, I think the one that we are referring to, it says number 9, a traffic study must be conducted for the project. If recommended by the traffic study, an addition of a right-hand turn lane for 1420 east will be added at owner's expense. And then number 10 says improvement of Sheep's Bridge Road either by the owner or in conjunction with Washington County. The improvements to include sidewalk, walking trail, and street lightings for the entire length of the east property line facing Sheep's Bridge Road. So 9 is more applicable, but it doesn't ever talk about to
and
a certain deck or additional.
I think that was early on when the drawings were first brought in, and I don't know where those sets are, but it's shown in, I mean, there's multiple maps that we were provided, and it is shown.
This is,
Yeah.
it's on the site.
Conditional use permit is what it is.
On the site plan,
We used to do that.
And the construction, the site plan, I haven't listened to it.
Like that was really efficient, but.
Again, we don't give a certificate of occupancy to the building, so.
All the conditions are met.
Conditions in that. Yes.
So we just.
That's your, yeah, that's like your requirement.
Yeah.
and I think your council gave a good distinguishing when you were talking about the zone change before. On this application, you get to take off your legislative hat and making law and put on your administrative hat and say, okay, here's what the code requires, the requirement to approve it. And I think Councilman Louis, your questions about the parking and what the density, those are great conversations to have as you're looking forward to the updates to the ordinance. Since there isn't something in place, you look at the design standards and you state requirements. And rely on the city engineer and their word to say, does it meet the design requirements for parking? So I appreciate the discussion we've had tonight. I think it addresses the administrative responsibilities, but it's always, especially a smaller town, you've got to consider which hat you're wearing on what action item is before the council.
Yeah, this is a land use decision.
Yeah, so you're acting administratively, so 10-9A.
It's applicable.
Is
It is applicable. And I pointed out the parking because we desperately need to change that. And the planning commission is aware of it.
Oh, there's a special dependency, I believe, in the International Building Code that has a table for commercial uses and parking stalls. When we adopted all of the uniform codes, we didn't adopt all of the appendices, only the ones like in the fire district or in the fire code, fire district 1. So that may be something to look at. I think that's where St. George City is getting their conversion for cross parking, for cross use stalls and stuff like that. And so
I'm a big fan of shared parking.
I have to,
And I just think it needs to be better defined than we have it. But thank you for.
we would want less asphalt if we can avoid it. And we require our stalls, they get parking lots, that's not.
And when we're gonna talk about a future zone change coming up, I think for this local downtown area, I think shared parking would be great.
Oh, one last comment, Jonathan's talked about the urgency in trying to get this finalized. Conditional approvals, what we talked about in terms of the 50-foot setback, parcel numbers. We would welcome that in terms of the vote tonight and recognize this might be the one and only commercial project under the current version of the code. But we are happy, we want to comply with the code. For sake of efficiency, saving another agenda item down the road, we would welcome the motion with conditions that would be specific on ensuring the requirements under 1810 D are met. We want to comply with those. It is, in terms of the norm, kind of flipped from what most developers work with municipalities and get done. That's usually you get the design reviews approved, and then you circulate the Mylar for the actual signatures. But I can appreciate it looking at the code, and we want to see it complied with. Our request is through a conditional condition on a motion. Thank you.
Does that make sense? Did you read that?
Revise. Engineer.
So I'm going to put my legislative hat on right now and say that there are so many things about this final plat that don't meet our code that I think that we need to have those items taken care of before we vote on this final plat.
She said she meant to say her administrative hat.
Administrative hat,
Yeah.
one of those hats.
Yeah, one of those, you're there, Bill. You're close. It's a hat.
It's a hat. Okay, but as Paul said earlier, April, this whole thing has been. I'm not going to use the term that we hear the military use for a situation like this, but it's been a mess. And we won't be having something like this again, because we will be following all the proper procedures from now on. So.
Lessons learned.
I'm sorry, going forward.
Lessons learned.
Lessons learned, exactly.
So that before I'm gonna bring that briefly up, I'm gonna have that condition, which that he approves the signatures required in that. So that it's all met.
Okay, yeah.
And then it will meet everything.
So you'll add that to these
I'll add
conditions.
that to these conditions, just so that it satisfies everyone. I feel like all these conditions should satisfy everybody.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to approve the final plat for, for V 22-1-21-3151, formerly known as two parcels, which are V 2-1-21-314 and V 2-1-21-315. I'm gonna recommend approval with the following conditions of the final plat. That we extend the final plat submission date to. That's what I meant, sorry. Thank you. The preliminary plat submission to be 7/10/2024. And that there is a revised plat that shows the setback corrected on there, which they already have, we just need a copy of it. And that the engineer reviews the final plat and this, and then the bonding is acceptable to the attorney in the end. The CCNRs have already been submitted, so I don't need to put that in there.
Okay.
And then the final condition being that the signatures required in 18.10A3, correct? D3. These added to this with town attorney as the verifying factor before he signs that document.
I second. Okay, I'll take a vote. Paul,
Aye.
June, yes, Misty,
Aye.
Marcy,
No.
April,
No,
okay. All right, so the vote, this is, final plat is approved with the conditions mentioned by Misty with a vote of 3-2. So that's. Are you happy now, Jonathan?
But we'll comply, I promise. People.
Okay. Item A3 on the agenda. Item A3 on the agenda is, for action items, is to approve the, cost to replace 2, fire hydrants. And the 2 fire hydrants that are going to be replaced is the one right here on this corner. Right here, by the town hall here. And the other is up on the corner of Highway 9 by Charlie Bird's house. 100 West and, Highway 9. And both valves, both, fire hydrants have to have not only the fire hydrant replaced, but the valve that is, associated. So the price came out to be quite expensive. So, we obtained bids from 3 people. 3 contractors, and Crystal put them here for us to open. Although I could have just received the bids, called everybody pursuant to our purchasing code. I could have just called everybody and said, hey, do you approve this purchase? Do you approve this purchase? And called and gotten everyone's approval. But since we had a town council meeting coming up, I figured we would just approve them here, instead of me making individual calls for each town council member. So that's why I put it on the agenda. And so, let's see, so we called 4 different people, they came and looked, but 3 gave us bids. One,
Need a letter on that.
I know, my gosh, this is crazy. Okay, so we need to get these, I will have these, whoever we, approved, they're going to, I'm gonna call them to get started tomorrow. I think we've already, did you tell the Blue Stakes to go ahead, Crystal? I mean, we didn't cancel that Blue Stakes request, right? You can say yes really loud, yes or no.
Yeah,
Did we cancel the Blue
no,
Stakes?
Blue Stakes has already been marked, I believe, on everybody. However, let me quickly tell you on the fire hydrant. The valve on SR9, that fire hydrant does not have a valve. So that needs to have a valve installed. It's currently leaking water, blowing out water. In order to shut that one off, we have to shut off 1/4 of the town at this point, so, it needs to have a valve installed in that one, so we were able to shut it off or turn it on, so on and so forth. This valve down here on this one, that needs to be replaced, it's just old and corroded. One of the bids, does include the sidewalk to be repaired that we had tore up on the water line up here. It just, because they're tearing up the sidewalk to replace this one. It also includes the sidewalk, the extra cement that they will repair there too as well. So there's a couple different options in your bid.
Okay, so our bids range from,
So valves will need to be replaced on both.
so bids range from $18,300 to $24,300. That is the range, so 18,300, 19,250, 19,750, not 250, and 24,300.
Which one includes the additional concrete?
The one that includes the concrete is actually the 18,300 is the one to, includes the concrete. Although
So
this one of 24,300 says replace concrete, but I'm not sure if that's the concrete,
No.
I think it's different concrete. It's not the
It's
concrete
just the
sidewalk.
concrete that's up here, because we're gonna have to dig that concrete up and just replacing that concrete.
So all I need from you guys is approval to, replace the fire hydrants, to spend the money to replace these 2 fire hydrants, replace the 2 valves, and, the sidewalk that's across the street from the town hall.
Well, and the sidewalks that have to be torn up through.
Well,
Yeah.
there is that. Well, their bids include that, it's just this extra piece of sidewalk over here.
Yeah.
Who has,
Yeah, can you tell
who's the bidder?
Can we see those?
who were the 3 bidders?
Which one has which? Which one has the extra? Is it this one? Or this
The
one?
lower one, the lowest one is the one that includes the contract, that's Derek Spinlove. Then you have Kenny Cornelius, and then you have this, I don't remember the name, Silver Legacy Excavating. Silver Legacy, I believe they're the ones who've done some work over at Science Edge and at, Rio de Sign. Is that the one? Silver Legacy, or they the
Yeah,
ones
they
that
did
did the
one,
repair at Science Edge? Okay.
Simple, a simple question, not necessarily required in decision making, but are any of these local?
2 of them are.
2 of them live here.
2 of them are local.
We have in our general, so what we've done is we've adopted the state procurement code with modification, anytime we go over $50,000. We have to put it out for $100,000, we have to put out in public. The standard, public bidding process. In this one, where we're less than that, she's done it correctly, and it does, we do have a provision in our modified version of the procurement code that we do like to give preference to local contractors. It's not a requirement, it's just general policy.
And the difference between the 2 is $1,600.
And this particular one is the one that has the, I remember the star, can I put a star right there?
Sure, I guess, financial wise, I'm just wonder why Public Works is not doing this. I mean, we're already paying on the town.
We have one public works person right now who could not possibly do all this by
Okay,
himself.
that's why I asked,
Okay.
because I have no idea what's going on with town
We
staffing.
do not have the expertise to be replacing.
And then, will this require a budget amendment? Is this something we budgeted for, and is it considered capital?
No, we did not budget for this because it happened this past week. We found.
Yeah, it's an emergency, I get it. It's critical, it's really important, I'm just asking important
Are
questions.
we gonna have
No,
to
it's-
rectify the budget later? Is
We
what I'm
will-
working on.
We'll probably have to amend the budget when I do the quarterly budget amendment in September. I try to do quarterly budget amendments, so, it will probably be in there. We'll see where we are on the budget in September. It may not need to be amended.
And we'll have to just amend it to add to our capital improvement plan, these
Okay,
2 items.
2 of those bids,
That's easy.
I question whether or not they're licensed contractors or licensed water operators, to be working on the town's water system. And is there liability insurance and protection there?
Did we require them? Well, I guess, we don't know, we probably don't know that from their bid proposals, maybe it says that a license number, but we may not know if they're bonded. Or not, or if they have the proper licensing. I think that if we were to vote to approve, it should be with the condition that they produce adequate proof of licensure, bonding, and general liability insurance coverage.
Right, because we have, the town has workman's comp coverage, but they're not police.
No, they have to provide, workman's comp, I mean, that goes without saying, but workman's comp, they need to have general liability insurance on top.
And one of those was looks like a professional quote.
Yes,
The
the other
other
two
actual
just,
legitimate
the other
business.
two just, gave us a handwritten.
One of them is.
There's a excavation.
One at a time. What now?
I did call excavation companies and go off of our business licensing of who we give business licenses to in town. I did check those, we were making phone calls.
Okay,
Um,
are you talking, when you say licensure, what licensure are you requesting that we ask for proof of?
Well, I don't know if I know the answer to that, other than I do know the general excavation contractors, they, in constructing, different types of projects and stuff like that, they install water lines and hydrants, but that's to an uncharged system. There is going to need to be, these replacements are gonna require a turn off of our current system, which probably our public works can do, for that section, and it needs to be, they need to understand what they're doing. I just don't know if I know what kind of licensure.
Well, and a business license with the town, is that just because they live in town and they operate a business from their home or somewhere within town? I mean, isn't that different?
You can do a search, adopt a search and see by the names of these individuals.
With a licensed contractor and a handyman are not the
That's-
same thing,
That's why I was asking, what kind of licensure are you guys asking for?
right?
Okay,
I would say at least a, general excavation contractor or someone with, it's an upper level plumbing contract, I don't know.
Yeah, it just, I mean, it affects the town's water system, and there's a lot of
Okay.
issues governing, so I'm sure that to just have somebody that's.
But isn't our public works the
Yeah,
certified water
so-
operator?
you know,
Not yet.
when we,
not yet.
when we did the other
He only started
fire hydrant,
15 days ago.
when we did the other fire hydrant, just FYI. The public works was still there and the town engineer was also there with them. So that's gonna still be that same process as well with these two fire hydrants.
Do we think we should take into consideration that some of these have already worked for the town? They've already done some work on our water lines for us.
Correct.
Yeah.
They've already done what I like.
I understand.
Okay. So. I'm asking for approval so that I can go forward with this and get these, fire hydrants replaced. So. Please give me some approval here. Somebody?
Motion to allow the mayor to award a bid for fire hydrant replacement. With the,
Do you want to do it not to exceed any conditions? Do you want to specify the specific contractor?
so that they have the proper licensing, with the condition that they have the proper licensing to be determined by our attorney. And that they have the proper general liability insurance. And
And the
that's,
bond,
and possibly, and that their bonding is in.
I mean, they have to have a bond to have it under the license.
Do you want me to add anything else to that before I end my motion?
I think, are you telling her that she can pick one of the three, or you?
Yes, that's what she.
I understood that was the question, as long as they meet those conditions.
Do we want to put
But not to exceed.
a value?
Not to exceed $25,000.
So just so I'm clear, is she gonna start with the lowest bid and then work up? Or she can just pick one out of the three?
Pick one out of the three, but
Then they have to meet this, as someone may not meet it.
Well, that's what I mean.
I mean, putting
Well, of
that
course,
not
I'm
to
gonna start with
exceed,
the
I
lowest
use
one
Okay,
first, and then
I
I
use the height limit.
That's what I wanted to make sure, we start with the lowest, and then we'll work up. I wanted to make sure I understood the motion.
I'll second your motion.
Okay. Paul,
I,
Jean, yes, Misty,
Yeah,
Marcy.
Yes, and we did give April a chance. to-
I'm about to ask April. Oh, April, did you have anything to say before you cast your vote?
No, I'm fine with that. I'll cast my vote. Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, so now we're moving on to the discussion items, and because Shirley Hall and her family have been so patient, I'm going to move them to the item number 1 under the discussion item, so we can dispose of it. Okay, so Shirley Hall, I have her on here. I want to go over. I put this on the agenda because they were on our agenda in February. And at the February meeting, there was a motion to approve the zone change that was voted down. It did not pass. And then I want to read the motion. I have the minutes from the February meeting. There's a motion to approve the ordinance, the rezone ordinance, which was voted down, and then we had a motion to table this for 6 months. This was made by Paul. Paul made a motion to table this 6 months as we work on our ordinances, the amendment to Lulu to include a light commercial zone. It has now been 5 months and nothing has been done to create a light commercial zone. So we did, subsequent to this ordinance, we did remove short-term rentals from commercial. But we have done nothing about putting on creating a light commercial zone. And I believe that we have a moral obligation to go forward with creating light commercial zone when this was the basis for tabling this for 6 months. So what are we going to do on this case, on this situation?
can I ask planning something, planning zoning, since
I will say this before you ask a question, that they just had a public hearing where there was a mention of something called cottage commercial,
Right.
but they were discussing chapter 30. It was not creating the zone, I saw nothing that was creating a new zone. I saw just an amendment in chapter 30.
well, that's the question, is the cottage commercial that you're working on, is that a new zone? What does that entail?
Is that me?
Yeah,
You're the only
the
person who can
representative.
answer that question for us.
We were under the understanding at the meeting where this was tabled, where Misty Garrett and Paul Libby were going to work on that specific. Did I get that incorrect?
Yes.
I have no idea.
That was incorrect? You didn't
Yes.
say that?
Yes,
You said you would be interested in working on that?
Was that at the joint meeting?
No,
I
we're
was
talking,
not at the joint meeting.
no, we're talking, oh, you mean where they may have
In
said.
February.
but in that joint meeting, I said that all the.
That was not, because I was at that meeting and
I wasn't at the joint meeting,
it's not the joint meeting. At this meeting.
the February
The
meeting,
February.
that was in.
So I'll have to go back and look because, and we have not gotten any requests
Exactly.
from you guys to do so. As soon as we get a request, we'll get to work on it.
I did talk to Brian at one time, just briefly about the cottage commercial. So I may have been
Yeah, it is
mistaken as
not
to
on our
what she was doing. But irrespective, the basis for light commercial extends beyond this area too. I mean, it's gonna affect some of the future and we do need to proceed forward with developing it.
And so what are we gonna do? Because we told them we were gonna bring this up in 6 months, and then in the 6 month period, we were gonna work on light commercial. Nothing's been done, and now it's coming up, so next month is the 6 months.
But this, in my opinion, this is not something that we can do within a 6 month period, because the idea of it, it's not something we can do in a month, it's not something we could have done in 6 months, because we have to take the commercial zone and break it up. So standards are gonna have to be made for different parts of the commercial zone. I understand where Paul's going with this village commercial that you put in the shared file.
Yeah, I think, just so the rest of the council may have not known that I put in today, because we're discussing this, I put in Lee Ballard's created village commercial, so I put that in just for an example of what one may be used. I don't know if that's exactly what I was thinking of.
No.
I tried to draft something today, but I just, not enough time, but I threw something in there just for discussion purposes to show you what the intent was supposed to be.
And for Starling,
Get
for
us
your
started.
clarification, he's looking at it that way, but as well, but when I had started writing this and talked to Bronwyn, but then Bronwyn had put it as a public hearing, I assumed you guys were all over it.
They were never told.
No.
They,
Right,
I think I can guarantee they were
They
never
were
told
not,
to work.
but Bronwyn had texted me and asked me what I was going to call it, and then she said she was working on an ordinance. I'm not throwing it at the bus at all. I'm just saying there was that
So
conversation.
that just underscores the value of this more, there's written communication.
And that's been happening after the line.
Yeah.
I've already talked to Bronwyn.
It may be, I was running over here because she wrote that, but there is mention of it, but I don't think it's a separate ordinance.
It's not.
It's like integrated, but
It
it's
was-
not a separate thing. and
It's
really
just
needs to be
integrated
a
into
separate-
chapter 30.
That's was my understanding.
Are you gonna make two different districts?
That it's gonna be 3.
3 different districts, okay.
I had 3 in mind.
It may be integrated in chapter 30, but there's the creation of two additional
Two additional
zone districts.
Which we kind of have our commercial zone and we have our HRZ zone, so they're gonna go. Those two are pretty well what it's gonna be, but they need to be. Written, they're right now, the location has to be changed
Correct.
for both
Is there a-
to create the middle one. The middle one's the one I'm working on because this one's already, these are already written.
So here's my deal. We now have a planner sitting over here that we signed a contract with. Are we going to
Yes.
are we going to ask Riker to please work on a light commercial zone for us? Are we going to have your proposal, Bronwyn's proposal, or do we say, Riker, here we are, let's have Riker start on the light commercial zone for us, but explain to Riker what kind of elements you're looking at.
That was
So
gonna
that
say,
you give him some parameters.
can we email Riker? What?
No, Riker is asking for one single point of contact for the town, and that is Crystal.
Okay, not Crystal.
Crystal is the single
And
point of
send
contact.
Paul, if you want to send even a partial draft of what you're thinking.
Yeah, I put something in SharePoint, but I really didn't get a chance to finish it. It was just.
I
quick
was struggling with
thoughts.
location.
We
is
just
what
need to
mine
give
is.
them something to get started with.
You don't have to have a location unless you.
Right, you don't have to have a location.
Well, it's-
Fixed physical. Yeah,
It is
we ran into problems throughout with this
Right.
highway resort zone that has certain fixed locations. And generally, you just don't see, you see
But I can't,
eligibility requirements, but eligibility requirements that aren't necessarily, you have to be within here unless it's like a historic zone.
well, but that's what the village commercial, in my mind, that's where I'm going with it, is that the center of our town,
And it's,
it needs to be a location, because that is. the
and
one
all
we
we're
want to
gonna do
preserve.
under the general plan is do away with the location requirements and just go back, go to the standard zone map. And then,
I'm gonna do.
So,
But I think that, isn't that what you, I feel like there needs to be a
Okay.
location.
But I think the bigger question is, this is a, I guess, a discussion item only, but the halls are here and they want to know.
what's gonna happen?
They would expect a renewal or re-review of their their zone change request to commercial.
Having said what I
They
said,
have waited for 6 months. You guys just need to discuss, are you willing, if you want a representative like Dayton to, comment as to what their expectations are, or what are we gonna do here?
Well, that's why I put this on the agenda, because I,
Dayton, come to.
6 months is running and we've got a moral obligation to do something.
Somebody wrote a really nice ordinance that's in your packet approving the zone change. I think you just vote on that. I mean, it was 3-2 last time, and somebody changed their mind, and you can deal with this with the next applicant. So that's what our
That's your
request is. It's commercials available for certain areas. These parcels are available. I didn't convince you last time, looking at the definition of available, ready for use, but. So if that's not an option, if we're not looking at actually approving the zone change as it was applied for. And if the only way we're gonna get this in line with your general plan is by waiting some period of time to fix your commercial zone the way that you would like, then I think we're okay with, another 6 months. But after that, I think we wanna vote a yes or no, and then we can pursue whatever remedy we feel we need to at that point.
Okay.
What if at the end of 6 months, there's a lot of progress and we're another month away from actually voting and establishing something?
Still down the draw. Still.
I think,
Yeah.
well, I think we would have to have that discussion at
Okay,
that point.
okay.
I mean, deadlines increase performance, and so let's,
I agree.
let's get it done. I mean, if you're not just gonna approve the zone as it was
Well,
applied.
things have changed. We do have now a contract planner that is helping to write our ordinances where, and he presents to planning commission and helps them formulate additional changes. And we hope that will streamline our process, a lot.
Yes, that's the hope.
It's smooth now.
And the basis, even with the minor changes to the commercial zone, the basis for my vote hasn't changed. So I'd like to proceed with trying to get this in place.
Okay, go for it. Oh, I thought you meant you were.
No,
proceeding with the
no,
motion.
no, I'm not,
Okay.
there's no motion and vote.
This is
discussion.
I just want to ask one question.
Thank you.
And didn't we talk about didn't we talk about these properties here and this is a new question and a new question. Didn't we talk about these properties here that don't actually touch
The highway.
the highway? You had discussed maybe that you were okay with leaving those out from this zone change, so
Yeah, the
is
way,
that still the final verdict?
the way I read your ordinance is that if it was fronting SR 9 between this crossroad and this crossroad, then the commercial zone was available. And that's very unique to Virgin, by the way.
Right,
That's what you were trying to say.
Yeah, that's.
right, yeah, that's.
And so when I read that, I said, well, I looked up the definition of available and it says like at your disposal, ready for immediate use, like those are the terms you get when you look at this. So I was surprised that there was so much push. We were just trying to get this property in line with what your general plan says, and we kind of jumped into a little bit of a hornet's nest, but. So when I read that, those 4 parcels that are not fronting Highway 9, I don't think those would qualify as I interpret your ordinance as being available. And so talking to Paul,
Question for you, are they all in common ownership?
yes, yeah, they're all owned by the trust.
Well, why don't you do a lot of consolidation by deed, and that's all one parcel?
Then we have to do a subdivision in the future, we'd be forced to do them.
So are you wanting to maybe move this around as lot line adjustment, then is that what you're thinking?
We don't know what we're doing, we're just trying to get it in line with the general plan. The idea though is that
But if you wanna.
we have options, we
Yeah.
have options if we don't consolidate.
So,
But the alternative is you don't have frontage. And so they don't.
So 4 of them.
that was my question.
These guys don't wanna give you the zone change.
Modest, but, so that was my question, is it applicable to you to take those 4 parcels all off of this zone change, but still keep these 3 large ones that are in fact abutting SR9 and meet our commercial qualifications?
Sorry, I didn't answer that question the first time I asked it, so let me answer it now. My understanding in talking to Paul was that he would be open with some sort of a cottage commercial zone. He was open to a form of a commercial zone for those that were adjacent to existing residential that was less impactful. That it still had a commercial component, but it wasn't this high intensity type of use. And then transitioning to the ones that had frontage, where it was more of a traditional commercial type zone. That was appealing to me, which is why we were like, you know what, let's not look at other options, like, let's see where this goes, let's see if this is workable. So we are open to that. Now, if you're talking about not waiting,
That's what I'm.
you're talking about not waiting.
If we wanted to pass this tonight or not pass it tonight, depending on what the vote may
We
be.
don't have this action.
This one.
Or on our next agenda, we put it on the vote on our next agenda. This last, these 4 acres, would you be, because I don't think we're gonna be ready in a month. I don't really feel like we'll be 100% ready. in
No,
6
all
months.
we're gonna be doing in a month is voting to extend this for 6
Right.
months. That's all.
So Misty, I would be, yes, the answer is yes.
Thank you. That's all.
The answer is yes. If you approve those 3 that had frontage, then we would be happy with that. We recognize that you have some legislative discretion. That's a legislative decision. And then we wait for your cottage commercial zone, and if that was something that we felt like would be beneficial for those 4 other parcels, we could choose to maybe apply for that later.
And just so you know, my logic in asking that question is that these abut residential homes, one being, there's
Yeah.
a couple of them on there, and that's the only reason I was suggesting those 4 removed, just because they abut that there.
Is that something we could consider, putting this back on the agenda as an action item? We can look at the 3 parcels with frontage. And then look at the other ones that abut. Those 4 down on the south end at some future date.
That's what I was thinking, is if you wait, because we're going to set this up with the commercial zone, and there's different, Paul has a different level of the way that they're written, like you were just explaining. That these we could be done later, and we could somehow mention that.
Okay, what he's asking is if we remove these 4 from the zone
Right.
change, are we willing to go ahead and rezone these 3 commercial?
And that is my next
Just
question,
three different
propose it,
The
you
3
as
that touch
a.
the highway. The 3 that touch the highway,
I'm not, but my objections still remain.
that you want light commercial first.
Yes.
But I don't feel like the delay on our part should be put on
Then,
the applicants.
I agree, that's why I like this whole process.
Point of clarification, Paul, are you thinking that if a light commercial zone or a cottage commercial zone was created, that you would want to take their zone change application and request that they modify it such that some portion is commercial and some portion is light commercial?
That would be a possibility, yes. Yeah.
Or possibly all of it as light commercial.
Or all of it is like commercial, depending on what it is.
Eventually it would change because we're going to write this zone and we're gonna have it done within a year, but I don't feel like they should have to.
There's some uses under the commercial that I don't think would be appropriate for this area. But if we do a light commercial, maybe we can cover all those uses that would be acceptable.
Because what Marcy was, what April, what's your name, Misty? Misty was thinking was if those 4 parcels toward the bottom were removed, then they would not have necessarily abut residential, but there is.
Cause it includes the buffer that is in our current commercial zone.
That there's a buffer.
There's a buffer.
Do you know how wide those back parcels are? You don't know, okay.
You can see that scale there.
Just wondering if there would be.
And there's actually some interesting history there.
Oh, I imagine.
My parents discovered that they actually had fee title ownership of 170 East in front of their house. And they actually owned it and had a deed to it. And that Virgin happened to own those two parcels, 49A and 48.
So they swapped it.
And so years ago, they just swapped them. And so, just
That's
some,
so Virgin.
just some.
That's like the mess across the street, too,
Yeah,
the middle,
I mean, so they're legal non-conforming lots.
Sure.
yeah.
And they're old, but it just kind of, when they were surveying it using ropes with knots tied in it, they messed up.
For Virgin, that's exactly how it is.
No, we were Virgin, they didn't have addresses, so they just let us pick ours.
Yeah. I remember being across the street.
It doesn't matter.
Oh, no,
That was previous to me. Oh, yeah, I know, yeah, previous to me, then there was an actual system. I feel like that.
yeah.
I feel like we put it on.
Well, there's no motion to be made here, but there
No.
probably could be some direction towards where the council is going.
That's what I was gonna say, not
So
gonna
that they should be prepared and this can be as an action item.
Personally, I feel that it should be on the next, regular meeting, not our special meeting that's really.
Nope, I have,
I feel like.
I
it's
have,
gonna be on our
I'm putting
regular-
it on for a vote at the August meeting.
And then the question being is if we are going to take those four out, needs to be a
That
part of
is-
the decision we make at that time.
That is a condition that you can place. The application's been made for all those
Right.
parcels. If you want to make that condition and ask the applicant if they are willing to eliminate those parcels and they agree, then
And it sounded like you said yes.
We will agree
He
to
did,
that.
he said yes,
Yes.
but, and the reason is it might make it more pleasing to those who had opposing opinions, that those are to be saved for a later date.
I don't recall what the planning commission recommendation was. Was it denied?
Let's see if it's even on the
I know we
minutes.
talked about those additional pieces as well. But I can't remember what their final,
The recommendation of approval, but there was one or two.
it had something to do with some of those other parcels, didn't it?
I only copied the minutes from the town council meeting in February. I did not count. I did not look at the minutes from February, but I can do that while we're sitting here.
860 parcels with that kind of line and go. I guess there's a lot of history there.
That's the one that goes like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know,
If you take an actual look at the town, if you take an actual look at the town, there's things like this all over.
The,
The roads, the easements and the roads, like, there's a couple of.
There's some really strange
Are,
shapes.
had to adjust lines.
what my parents thought they bought wasn't what the legal title ended up showing, and it wasn't where the fences were. And so that one, so they started buying from neighbors and trying to buy pieces that would match the fences.
To make it.
Kind of split
Yeah,
out.
just trying to make it right with everybody and doing some lot line adjustments. And then-
Right, Crystal,
Yeah,
where do I find the minutes for February's meeting? Oh, here we go. I found them. Okay.
From raising the hand and you're going to.
Oh, yes, yes.
Yes, so we recommended that, approval for the lot, adjacent to the highway. And not approval for the four small ones, and they were fine. Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Cause he's right, if it doesn't have frontage, then that's up to, you have broad discretion to make a decision on zone change, but. So that's why we're okay with that, that's what.
But it's all about give and take, so
That's also.
that's why I asked.
Also didn't say. If it's, maybe we want to make it all contiguous, I like consolidation.
The buffers would have to be there for commercial road anyway.
There has to be from residential, there has to be 50 feet. Buffer from residential.
That's why
So.
Marcy was
So
asking.
a lot of
us,
it
like,
is that kind of stuff, and maybe we don't have that, as intense of a setback in light commercial.
So Heath, let me ask,
Yeah, I prefer smaller setbacks and like commercial, smaller building size. Restriction on building size and footprint, especially for neighborhood commercial. What I was proposing is 5,000 square foot for the building size. But you allow a lot of different business uses that go in on a smaller size that could fit into the neighborhood.
Yeah, but maybe in the types of uses that are commonly good for neighborhood commercial.
What I would suggest, small scale restaurants would be all right. Personal services, doctors' offices, medical officers, accountants, legal, yeah. Massage.
Notes there, right, this is all the kind of stuff.
I put it in my ordinance as possible use of veterinarian maybe.
The things that you like to have real close.
Yeah. The problem I have with the commercial zone allows for larger buildings and it also then allows for a gas station,
So you want smaller buildings and different uses.
smaller buildings, different
Compatible
uses. I want shared parking.
Yes.
I think that's important, especially in this area, maybe not so someplace else.
Reduce setbacks.
Reduce setbacks.
Residential zone.
This area would be even good for zero line setbacks, maybe depending, if you have certain restrictions, zero line setbacks, depending maybe on what you wanted to put in. The intent is walkability.
What did you say?
I said David's enticing when you start talking about zero up.
Yeah,
He's like, really?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll wait.
I mean, yeah, for the more condensed area like this, yes. Complexes. I'd like to see apartment buildings potentially, if we got sewer.
Well,
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, a good thing that would be a transition, you oftentimes see transition,
Right.
commercial and residential. You do low density residential, multifamily.
You increase the density of the residential, yeah.
Mayor, I have one question
Yes.
for you. If we were to do a consolidation and make these 7 into 1 or 2 parcels. In your mind, because I have an opinion about what the ordinance says, but would that change? Would that limit the discretion that the council would have when looking at a zone change application because these 1 or 2 parcels would have frontage on it? Within the cross streets that are identified in the commercial zone?
Yeah, it would limit. Well, I guess the way I answer that, Dayton, is that I would say, look, the council's gonna have to look, they're likely going to scrutinize your request closer. Because if they grant it, they're going to be granting commercial all the way back to these parcels that are residential. Does it stand, does it limit or diminish your ability of a successful local plan? But it would satisfy the adjacency, location requirements for commercial zone.
So I've got 2 ideas, and I'd be okay with either one. One is like Misty was suggesting, we would agree to take out the 4 parcels that don't front. And we'd be fine with the commercial designation now that's limited to the 3 parcels with frontage. For now, and then we could later look at another application after the cottage zone. I'd kindly request that ordinance waive that future application fee if it's filed within 2 years or something, so I don't have to pay another $1,000.
I think that would be appropriate. I don't have a
For sure.
problem with that.
But Heath, I have a question. The 48D and 49A, the 2 small ones here, and this one, the 72, they're not big enough. They're only 2.8 acres.
They're legal non-conforming uses.
So it would be fine. It's not gonna create a problem that they're smaller. It's not gonna make them useless.
Well, it is gonna become a possibility. Dave, you can appreciate that. If we rezone something and right off the bat, it doesn't comply with the size requirement, you know? If you ought to look at that, that might be an argument for consolidating because have to do almost like a lot line adjustment to make those.
Cause you could just pull in the one.
There'd be
48
access
into-
problems we'd have to deal with and that.
Even if you pulled in 48 to 53 and 49 to
Well,
Or
even for those two
74,
small
49,
ones,
48.
I don't know, is it wide enough to meet the frontage requirement? I don't. Yeah,
Which one?
those two small back ones, that would be on.
How many acres would that push that?
Well, okay, so look, if they were to combine B 49A and B 49B into one parcel,
Right. A and B.
then it would meet the size requirement. But would it meet the frontage requirement? It has to front on a public street.
I just don't wanna leave them out of this, and they're useless after we leave them out of the zone change.
Yeah.
So
You know,
here's another idea. What if as a condition of the zone change, we agree to consolidate B 73 and 72E into a parcel? And then those 5 other parcels on the east side.
One big
does
parcel.
that put you at your measurements that you were working with, where you didn't want to subdivide, does that
There you
put you
go.
at 5
There you-
acres?
there you go.
And so that way,
Lot consolidation by deed,
V 74 and V 49A, make that one lot, make V.
no, I was saying.
No, he was saying take
I was
all
saying-
5. All 5 of these, that make a big square.
Let's make less lots.
Yeah.
Make it all
Just have two
commercial.
lots.
And then we have a 50-foot setback.
This one, this one, this one, and
You'd have
then
two
two.
lots.
Yeah, we'd have 2
So it
lots,
makes one big
2 lots
square.
with frontage on Highway 9.
ability
You
to
still got
develop.
your setback against existing residential. You eliminate these multiple lots that we're gonna, that leave us options. We're willing to walk away from those options if we can get a.
Well, it'll leave you 2 lots, and the ability to do a lot line adjustment in the future.
But
based on-
does that keep you under the 5 acres? I haven't checked the other sides, so that's my question, is that?
What do we need 5 acres
Well,
for?
because to have to do a subdivision.
Oh, to do a
He
subdivision.
doesn't wanna have, he stated earlier that he did not want to do a
Yeah.
subdivision, that's why they didn't consolidate into one. Okay, so if we're gonna talk adjustments, let's keep it amicable to what his goal was.
I'm not concerned about that. I think
You're not
we're just
worried about
looking for,
Okay.
I appreciate the thought, but. We're not asking for a subdivision right now.
Right.
Well, maybe I don't understand you. You probably know it better than I do. Misty, what's the 5-acre subdivision?
In order to do the subdivision,
Subdivision, you have to have 5 acres.
Oh, you have to have at least 5.
yeah,
Can you-
so I didn't know if you were
Can you
worried
combine
about.
2 different parcels into one application for a subdivision?
I don't think so.
I think it has to become one.
So it has to
One.
And I,
do it
in the past, I
sometime in the
remember that
future.
our
Well,
residential ones, they
The
were
approval
like
of
that.
subdivision would be consolidated.
Right.
into 2
It would be
parcels.
then.
But, we
I
do
just didn't wanna
have,
mess with that for you.
Dayton, if you were to make those 2 one lot and then the big square one lot, you do have the ability, the division of land waiver, if they're dividing land for purposes of future development. You can do 1 division of land, every certain period of time, so technically you could possibly pursue without having to go through the full subdivision requirement. Possibly.
But we're not subdividing, we're asking.
Yes, just go to 2, with the idea that.
So either, I'm okay with either one. If we go with the second option, consolidate the 2 parcels, commercial zoning for all 7. That doesn't leave us with these odd lots hanging down.
Ron would have a question.
Just so we don't complete that, I don't know what's in the works right now, is the left part back the commercial growth, we just have to make sure that we wouldn't, it wouldn't screw you up if you're thinking consolidate that all, it's actually too deep, and then it'd be a mixed use anyway, that makes sense? This is just a heads up, because I don't want you to get, just trying.
Yeah, I don't
Because we do
understand.
wanna limit the depth of commercial.
So the commercial's about to get limited in how far back from the highway it can go.
Is that a current ordinance or?
No.
But
Pending,
No,
do we have a draft?
where that,
Just.
yes, but it hasn't been put on a.
Well, we're talking ahead, so that I just don't want to be misled, I want
Well,
to.
it wouldn't have retroactive effect.
No, it wouldn't have-
So, anything that you're working on right now, I'm trying to.
I'm not gonna put that's pretty bad.
If we're gonna rezone it next month, then it's. No,
The zoning application's been in place. for
Okay, that's great, I just wanted to make sure, we're sitting in front of us, I just want to make sure we're gonna get in trouble.
what?
That's all.
Hold on, Paul has some.
Just to reiterate, I'm all right with waiving future fees. I have concerns with the commercial for this area. So I prefer that we grant, that we just extend it next month for another 6 months. Get the, whatever we call it, the several light commercials in place and then proceed. But that's my preference, only 1 out of 5. I'm
What?
only 1 out of 5.
What'd you say?
I said, Paul doesn't want to use a gas station. No.
Well, that's the idea of the village
But
committee.
yeah, that's why you're trying to
However-
have something that doesn't allow quite as intensive of uses like that.
However, ordinances are written the way they are. We can ask you to bend and do these things, but the ordinances are written as is. And the only thing in my reading of it that doesn't comply are those 4 parcels. The other 3 comply. And that's why my beginning of my questioning was, is our ordinance says you
I think
can.
that's the question.
And our
Was there
previous
any other
argument we had is,
Because you can, if the applicant stipulates, you can agree to rezone a commercial, on the condition and the stipulated condition that no gas station and any other delineated use that is allowed as a permitted or conditional use is taken off the table.
but we're doing the same thing we did with the previous zone change that we just did. What was their name?
The peaks.
The peak. We're determining uses.
Oh, I
Instead of just
agree.
going with our zone change for commercial because that's as written.
Just saying it.
Right. But that was my comment.
All right,
I don't feel like we should make it, that's my
we'll put
opinion.
it on the vote. Well, we can talk some more in between now and then about some issues, but we'll put it on for the
I mean, can I ask
next
one
one.
more question?
Yeah.
I noticed in your materials, you had a draft ordinance in place.
Yes,
Is it
that
your
was the draft
practice?
ordinance back in February, same ordinance back
Do
in
you
February.
usually have one prepared in anticipation of a vote, or you do it by motion and then you write it later?
No, we have it drafted in anticipation.
So we kind of need to decide which way are we gonna, because I'm okay with either, one of the 2 options, right?
Okay,
Leave off the 4,
okay,
granted, the commercial on the 3 frontage, waive the, and you should probably put, I shouldn't say this, but.
Dave, if we have a draft of the actual ordinance that's being adopted, because it's a legislative act, that's why I say you need to have a draft of the ordinance in place.
Right.
If as part of the zone change, it's a stipulation to withdraw those parcels, then we would just need to make a pending or line item change in the ordinance to reflect what we've just.
so we would not need to redo our.
I don't think we need to have like 2 or 3 possible variations of what may be agreed to. We just keep what we've got.
Okay, got it.
Option 2 would be a little trickier if we were gonna have a condition of consolidation of the 2 and the 5 lots.
Yes,
But you could do that in a meeting.
Adding 1 paragraph.
Okay.
And on the first one, do
They've had me type out the paragraph to be added.
Work it on the fly.
Throw it up on the screen so they can all look at it.
we need to add the condition as well that these passed, if we leave them out? This is a scenario that we're leaving those out, that they can be rezoned later without a fee.
Yes, you're the
And
only, you're the only one that can waive the fee,
Right.
and it doesn't have to be on it as a special.
I don't do this, we don't have to do it as a
Part of
special
different-
condition. But that might be their mind.
Yes, so to your question, yes, you can do that.
And then we would also, if they're gonna lot line adjust, we can waive that fee as well. If we're making that a condition. I'm just asking, are these things we can do?
As Jennifer says, you want.
Does the town, does Virgin Town have an application for lot line adjustment?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, okay.
But you were referring to, lot consolidation.
We don't have anything for that, but lot line.
We have no fee, no
Right.
application.
Consolidation.
He would go out, we would say, okay, we approve your zone change on the condition that within 30 days of today's approval, you consolidate by deed, approved by the town attorney or something like that. And they go out, create the deeds, sign them on behalf of the trust and go record them. And that just makes that one big square and that one L shape and it's done.
It's not a lot like just like we're talking about Labrie.
Right.
It's not,
Okay.
it's a consolidation.
Thank you for your time. You guys spent a lot of time on that.
Okay.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
So I wanted to make clear, we haven't forgotten about you guys. We were keeping you in our minds. And,
But before we get off that, not to halt the lead, but irrespective, we gotta give direction to start working on that.
yes, now, and so we can go ahead and give some direction to Riker, but it's 9 o'clock. Everything else is gonna have to wait for next month. It's on the agenda that we haven't addressed, because it's 9 o'clock. I wanna know, do you wanna close the meeting? No, okay.
Well,
What,
some of these are just referral to planning commission. I don't refer them to planning commission and then they can work on it. We're not
18,
delaying.
okay, subdivision, we're not ready to send that.
But the-
1 and 3.
Yeah, 1 and 3 can go to planning commission
Okay, fine.
and then they
fine,
can do a
fine,
recommendation
Fine.
and we can decide if it's not another month.
Fine. Make it, so we will,
And the rest will be prepared.
I'm ready to go. Let's get it going. So tell Riker, so give Riker your guidance.
So we have proposed ordinance number 20, considering the DRC and proposed ordinance to planning and zoning commission. Can we just have planning and zoning look at those as directions from us down? And then proceed, so we at least get that in the
Yes.
pipeline?
Make the motion, Paul.
I moved that ordinance amending chapter 20, item A1, and item A.
You can make a motion.
Okay.
You can, hey, you're not taking any formal land use action, you are
Right.
literally motioning to instruct the planning commission and the contract zone
To work on it.
to start working on it.
So A1 and A3, chapter 20 and amendment to chapter 402, directing contract, planner and, planning commission to
Look at this.
look at this, process it and submit it back up to the town council.
Okay, so then that means what we're going to do, Riker, is I'm sorry, I'm glad you're here because he was giving you some stuff to work on. But this item number 2, we're gonna have to wait until next month. Okay? And then item 5 is something that's got nothing to do with Riker, that's just us. So I'll put that on for next month. So those 2 will get continued, but before we even went to those, you said you wanted to give Riker some more direction on the light commercial zone.
But you said we needed to email that to you so that it could go to
Crystal.
Riker. To Crystal, it's not go to Riker.
Crystal and then. it goes
Okay,
to-
well, when, all I'm saying is when Dayton turned around and walked away, you said, before we get off this topic, I want to give some direction to Riker. And then I said, well, I want us to end the meeting because it's 9 o'clock. So is there anything else you wanted to give direction to Riker on?
Yeah, to proceed with drafting the light commercial.
Okay, well, I didn't know if there was any more on light commercial.
Riker,
Okay.
do you feel like, based on the comments that we made, you can kind of start one and then wait for our email?
So I can start on something, what I would prefer is just an email, so that I have that in writing, that I have direction, and start on that. And then, as you guys have additional comments and things that you'd like included in that, you can send that.
Can I ask that Bronwyn also is working on a cottage?
She can send
Yeah,
that.
she said,
She can
send
send
that.
that. She sent it
Send
to
your
Crystal.
comments as well to
Crystal.
Crystal, and then they can go to Riker as well.
Yes, so everybody who's got anything working on this type of thing, send it to Crystal. Crystal will take care of it.
Put it in your, in the line of your email, For Riker.
For right,
Holds
okay.
everything that says for Riker and forwards it on.
So I'll ask you this, when, we just, signed a contract with Civic Plus, Municode, to update our code, make it, what you see in most towns, ours is so old fashioned, when you look at it online, it's so old. And so we're updating the way it looks online. And as part of the contract, we also got a subscription to what is called Unit Pro. And we have one login ID and password, and you can search with using Unit Pro. It will pull up every,
Reference to every other
municipality,
city.
every
Who
municipality
is on, who is.
is on Unicode.
Yeah.
Yes, every municipality on Unicode that has created a zone like what we're talking about. Would you like me to give you our login?
That would be actually,
Okay.
yes.
The answer would be yes.
Yeah, just yes, so you don't have to read that.
Okay. Well, I just want to make sure that they didn't have an access to that already at Sunrise or something, so we weren't spending money. All right, I'll send you my code. Okay, motion to adjourn,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, bye. April.
Bye.
And I like the term.
Hey, I actually